Welcome to Echoes of Ancient History. Tonight, we embark on a journey into some of the greatest unsolved mysteries ever discovered. Across the world, archaeologists, historians, explorers, and researchers have uncovered ancient monuments, lost cities, mysterious manuscripts, and extraordinary artifacts that continue to challenge our understanding of the past. Some of these discoveries are thousands of years old. Others seem so advanced or unusual that they have inspired decades of debate, speculation, and investigation. Tonight, we'll stand among the massive stone pillars of Göbekli Tepe, a temple older than many of the world's earliest civilizations. We'll travel across the Pacific Ocean to the mysterious city of Nan Madol, where enormous stone structures rise from tropical islands. We'll descend into the forgotten Lanyu caves and examine the astonishing stonework of Puma Punku. Along the way, we'll explore the vast Nazca lines etched across the Peruvian desert, investigate the underwater mystery of the Yonaguni Monument, and discover the remarkable Antikythera mechanism, a device so sophisticated that it changed the history of ancient technology. We'll also uncover strange maps, undeciphered books, and mysterious manuscripts that continue to resist explanation, including the Piri Reis map, the Rohan Codex, and the legendary Voynich Manuscript. Some of these mysteries may eventually be solved. Others may remain unanswered forever. So settle in, relax, and allow the noise of the modern world to fade away. Let ancient temples, forgotten cities, mysterious artifacts, and hidden knowledge guide you gently through the shadows of history. And before we begin, let me know in the comments what city you're watching from tonight. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It really means a lot to me. Every story, every memory, and every place matters. And together we keep history alive. Now let's begin. Chapter 1. Segment 1. Göbekli Tepe, the temple older than civilization. As the first light of dawn spreads across the rolling hills of southeastern Anatolia in what is now modern-day Turkey, a quiet landscape begins to emerge from the darkness. Gentle ridges stretch toward the horizon. Wild grasses move softly in the morning breeze. Birds circle above the hills, as they have for countless generations. At first glance, there seems to be little here to distinguish this place from thousands of other hills scattered across the region. Yet beneath the surface lies one of the most astonishing archaeological discoveries ever made, hidden for thousands of years. Beneath layers of soil and stone, Göbekli Tepe has challenged long-held assumptions about the origins of civilization, religion, architecture, and human society itself. Since its discovery, archaeologists have struggled to answer a simple question: who built this extraordinary monument and why? To understand the magnitude of the mystery, we must travel back more than 11,000 years, to a world that looked very different from our own. Agriculture had not yet become widespread. Cities did not exist. Writing had not been invented. Metal tools were unknown. According to traditional theories that shaped archaeology for much of the 20th century, people of this period lived primarily as hunter-gatherers, moving across landscapes in search of food and resources. While these communities possessed sophisticated knowledge of nature and survival, scholars generally assumed that large-scale architecture, organized religion, and monumental construction emerged only after agriculture allowed people to settle permanently. For decades, this sequence seemed logical. First came farming, then villages, then organized societies capable of building temples and monuments. Göbekli Tepe would eventually force researchers to reconsider that entire narrative. The story of its modern discovery began during the 20th century. For many years, the site attracted little attention. A low hill covered with stones appeared unremarkable compared to other archaeological locations in the region. Some researchers believe the visible remains represented a simple medieval cemetery. Yet in the 1990s, German archaeologist Klaus Schmidt recognized that something far more significant might be hidden beneath the surface. Excavations soon revealed enormous stone pillars arranged in circular and oval enclosures. As workers carefully removed layers of soil, more structures appeared, then more. The scale of the site became increasingly apparent. Massive T-shaped limestone pillars stood several meters tall and weighed many tons. Some were decorated with intricate carvings of animals including foxes, snakes, wild boars, birds, insects, and other creatures. Human-like features appeared on certain pillars, suggesting symbolic or spiritual significance. The craftsmanship was extraordinary. These were not random stones placed casually. Within the landscape, they represented deliberate design, planning, and labor on a monumental scale. The age of the site proved even more surprising. Radiocarbon dating indicated that the earliest structures were built around 9,600 BCE, making them thousands of years older than Stonehenge and older than the pyramids of Egypt by an astonishing margin. Suddenly, archaeologists found themselves confronting a profound mystery. How could communities, traditionally described as hunter-gatherers, create such a complex monument? Constructing Göbekli Tepe required quarrying massive limestone blocks, transporting them across the landscape, shaping them into pillars, decorating them with relief carvings, and arranging them within carefully planned architectural spaces. Such activities imply organization, cooperation, and social coordination involving large numbers of people. Yet according to older models of prehistory, societies at this stage lacked the agricultural foundations thought necessary for projects of this scale. The site appeared to exist before many of the conditions believed essential for monumental construction. This realization transformed Göbekli Tepe into one of archaeology's most important discoveries. Imagine standing on the hill 11,000 years ago as construction takes place. Groups of people gather from across the surrounding region. Workers use stone tools to carve pillars from bedrock. Teams coordinate efforts to move enormous stones. Skilled artisans create animal carvings rich with symbolic meaning. Ceremonial gatherings may accompany the construction process. Feasting perhaps brings communities together. Knowledge passes between generations. The monument grows gradually over time. Yet unlike later cities, there is little evidence that large permanent populations lived directly at the site. Instead, Göbekli Tepe may have functioned as a special place where different groups periodically assembled. If so, the implications are profound. Rather than agriculture creating social complexity, perhaps shared rituals and communal projects encouraged cooperation that eventually contributed to the development of settled life. This possibility remains one of the most fascinating aspects of the site. The carvings themselves deepen the mystery. Animals dominate the imagery. Foxes appear repeatedly. Snakes wind across stone surfaces. Birds spread their wings. Wild boars, gazelles, and predators occupy prominent positions. Yet there are relatively few clear depictions of domesticated animals or cultivated plants. The symbolism seems rooted in a world still closely connected to hunting and wild landscapes. What did these images mean? Were they associated with myths, spiritual beliefs, clan identities, or ceremonial traditions? Archaeologists continue debating these questions. Without written records, certainty remains impossible. The stones preserve messages, but the language of those messages has been lost. Another intriguing aspect involves the deliberate burial of the site. At some point, many of the enclosures were intentionally filled with soil, stone fragments, and debris. This was not the result of natural abandonment. People appear to have carefully buried structures that had once required immense effort to create. Why? Did religious practices change? Did communities move elsewhere? Was burial itself part of a ceremonial process? No definitive answers exist. The deliberate concealment of Göbekli Tepe adds another layer to an already complex mystery. The monument survived precisely because it was buried, yet the reasons for that burial remain uncertain. As the morning sun climbs higher above the hills of southeastern Turkey, and the ancient pillars cast long shadows across the excavation areas, Göbekli Tepe continues challenging assumptions about the distant past. It suggests that human beings were capable of remarkable achievements long before the emergence of cities, states, and written history. More importantly, it reminds us that our understanding of ancient societies remains incomplete. Beneath the soil of a seemingly ordinary hill lay evidence powerful enough to reshape narratives regarding the origins of civilization itself. Few archaeological discoveries have had such a profound impact. And yet, despite decades of research, the central mystery endures. Who built Göbekli Tepe? What beliefs inspired its construction? Why was it buried? The answers remain hidden somewhere within the stones, waiting for future discoveries to bring them into the light. As the day unfolds across the windswept hills surrounding Göbekli Tepe and sunlight illuminates the towering pillars that have stood silently for more than 11,000 years, the deeper implications of the site begin to emerge. Archaeologists often describe discoveries as important because they provide new information about the past. Göbekli Tepe does something far more remarkable. It challenges the very framework through which researchers once understood early human history. Before its discovery, many scholars viewed the transition from hunting and gathering to farming as the foundation upon which civilization was built. Agriculture produced food surpluses. Surpluses supported larger populations. Larger populations enabled specialization, hierarchy, organized religion, and monumental construction. The sequence seemed straightforward. Yet Göbekli Tepe appears to reverse part of that process. Here stands a monumental ceremonial complex created before widespread agriculture had fully transformed society. The implications are both fascinating and unsettling because they suggest that human motivations may have been far more complex than earlier models allowed. Imagine the communities that gathered here thousands of years ago. They lived in a world undergoing significant environmental and cultural change. The Ice Age had recently ended. Landscapes were shifting. Animal populations moved across new territories. Human groups adapted continually to changing conditions. Within this dynamic environment, people came together to create something extraordinary. The effort required was immense. Quarrying limestone with stone tools demanded skill and patience. Transporting pillars weighing several tons required coordinated labor. Constructing circular enclosures involved planning and architectural knowledge. Decorating pillars with detailed relief carvings required artistic expertise. None of these tasks occurred spontaneously. They reflect organization and shared purpose on a scale rarely associated with hunter-gatherer societies in older archaeological literature. One possibility is that Göbekli Tepe served as a ceremonial center, drawing participants from a wide geographic region. Seasonal gatherings may have brought communities together for rituals, feasts, social exchanges, and cooperation. Such events could strengthen relationships between groups, facilitate the sharing of knowledge, and reinforce collective identities. If this interpretation is correct, then religion or ritual may have acted as a powerful force encouraging social complexity long before the rise of urban civilization. Rather than being a product of settled agricultural life, organized ceremonial activity may have helped create conditions leading toward it. This idea remains one of the most influential contributions of Göbekli Tepe to archaeological thought. The site also raises intriguing questions about leadership and social organization. Large-scale construction projects typically require coordination. Someone must decide where structures will be built. Labor must be organized. Knowledge must be transmitted. Resources must be managed. Yet evidence for rigid social hierarchies at Göbekli Tepe remains limited. Archaeologists continue debating how the work was organized. Did respected ritual specialists guide construction? Were decisions made collectively by different groups? Did temporary leadership emerge during gatherings? The answers remain uncertain. The site demonstrates impressive cooperation, but the exact mechanisms behind that cooperation are still mysterious. The animal carvings continue to inspire intense discussion. Their abundance suggests deliberate symbolism rather than simple decoration. Foxes, snakes, birds, boars, and predators appear repeatedly throughout the site. Some researchers propose that these creatures represented spiritual beings or mythological figures. Others suggest connections to clan identities, cosmological beliefs, or ritual practices. Certain animals occupy prominent positions, hinting at particular significance within the symbolic world of the builders. Yet, without written explanations, interpretations remain speculative. The carvings invite questions, while resisting definitive answers. They are among the most beautiful and enigmatic forms of communication preserved from the deep past. Human imagery appears more rarely, but is equally intriguing. Some pillars possess carved arms, hands, and belts, giving them distinctly anthropomorphic qualities. These features suggest that the pillars themselves may have represented beings rather than simply architectural elements. Were they ancestors, spirits, deities, symbolic guardians? The possibility that entire enclosures functioned as sacred spaces, populated by monumental stone figures, adds another dimension to the mystery. Visitors entering such spaces may have experienced powerful emotional and spiritual responses. The architecture was not merely functional. It was designed to communicate meaning. Another fascinating question concerns daily life around the site. Archaeologists have recovered evidence of large-scale feasting, including animal bones from numerous species. These remains suggest communal meals involving significant quantities of food. Feasting plays important roles in many societies. It reinforces social bonds, marks important occasions, and expresses shared identities. At Göbekli Tepe, communal gatherings may have been central to the site's purpose. People came together not only to build, but also to participate in activities strengthening relationships across broader networks. Such interactions could have influenced cultural developments extending far beyond the hill itself. The deliberate burial of the enclosures remains one of the site's greatest puzzles. Over time, structures were carefully filled with soil, stone, and other materials. New enclosures were sometimes built nearby while older ones disappeared beneath protective layers. This process occurred repeatedly. The effort involved was substantial, suggesting intentional action rather than neglect. Why bury monuments requiring so much labor to create? Some researchers propose that burial represented a ceremonial conclusion to a structure's active life. Others suggest changing beliefs or social transformations. No consensus exists. The burial preserved the site remarkably well, yet it simultaneously obscured the reasons behind its own preservation. Modern technology continues revealing new details. Ground-penetrating surveys indicate that many portions of Göbekli Tepe remain unexcavated. Only a fraction of the site has been explored directly. Additional enclosures likely remain hidden beneath the earth. Future excavations may uncover evidence capable of answering some questions while undoubtedly creating new ones. This uncertainty is part of what makes Göbekli Tepe so compelling. It stands at the intersection of discovery and mystery. Every revelation deepens appreciation for the people who built it while highlighting how much remains unknown. As afternoon light spreads across the ancient hill, and the carved pillars continue standing where they were placed more than 11 millennia ago, Göbekli Tepe remains one of the most extraordinary archaeological sites on Earth. It challenges assumptions about the origins of civilization, the role of religion, the nature of cooperation, and the capabilities of ancient societies. Most importantly, it reminds us that history is rarely simple. The people who created this monument lived long before writing, cities, or empires, yet they achieved something so remarkable that it continues reshaping modern understanding of the human story. Their voices are silent, their language forgotten, and their intentions uncertain. Yet, through stone, symbolism, and architecture, they left behind a mystery powerful enough to captivate the world and ensure that Göbekli Tepe remains one of history's greatest unsolved ancient enigmas. Chapter 1. Segment 2. Nanmadol, the stone city rising from the Pacific. As the morning sun rises above the endless blue waters of the western Pacific Ocean, golden light spreads across a chain of small tropical islands surrounded by coral reefs and calm lagoons. Palm trees sway gently in the ocean breeze. Waves break softly against ancient stone walls partially hidden by dense vegetation. To a traveler arriving by boat, the landscape appears both beautiful and mysterious, as though it belongs equally to history and legend. This is Nanmadol, one of the most extraordinary archaeological sites on Earth. Built upon a series of artificial islets along the coast of Pohnpei in the Federated States of Micronesia, Nanmadol has often been called the Venice of the Pacific. Yet even that comparison fails to capture its uniqueness. Massive stone structures rise from the water itself. Narrow canals separate dozens of constructed islands. Enormous basalt columns, some weighing several tons, were stacked to create walls, tombs, ceremonial platforms, and administrative centers. For centuries, the site served as the political and ceremonial heart of a powerful island society. Yet one question continues to puzzle archaeologists, engineers, historians, and visitors alike. How was this remarkable city built in such a remote location, and why was it created in the first place? To appreciate the mystery of Nanmadol, imagine the Pacific world centuries before European explorers crossed these waters. The ocean dominates every aspect of life. Islands are scattered across vast distances, separated by hundreds or even thousands of miles of open sea. Navigation requires extraordinary skill. Generations of sailors learned to read stars, currents, winds, cloud formations, and ocean swells. Long before modern instruments existed, Pacific navigators crossed immense distances with astonishing accuracy. Within this maritime world, island societies developed complex political systems, trade networks, and cultural traditions. Among them, emerged the Sotalur dynasty, rulers who eventually established Nanmadol as their ceremonial and administrative capital. According to local traditions, the city became a center of power unlike anything else in the region. Yet, even today, its origins remain partly shrouded in mystery. Archaeological evidence suggests that construction began gradually over centuries, eventually reaching its greatest development between approximately the 12th and 17th centuries. During this period, workers transformed a shallow reef into a monumental urban landscape. Artificial islets were created by filling areas with stone and coral. Massive retaining walls were constructed. Canals connected different sections of the city. Specialized districts emerged, including ceremonial areas, elite residences, mortuary complexes, and administrative centers. The scale of the project is astonishing when viewed against the environmental challenges involved. There are no large rivers nearby. No draft animals existed on the islands. No wheeled vehicles. Assisted transportation. Yet builders somehow moved enormous quantities of stone and arranged them with remarkable precision. The basalt columns used in construction form one of the greatest mysteries associated with Nanmadol. These stones originated from volcanic formations located several kilometers away. Individual columns often weigh multiple tons. Archaeologists estimate that tens of thousands of basalt blocks were transported to the site over the course of construction. How was this accomplished? Modern researchers propose various explanations involving rafts, canoes, rollers, coordinated labor, and ingenious engineering techniques. Yet no definitive answer exists. The sheer logistical challenge remains difficult to comprehend. Imagine standing beside a somehow these immense materials are moved through dense tropical environments, transported across water, and incorporated into carefully designed structures. The achievement required planning, organization, and knowledge on a remarkable scale. The city itself appears almost dreamlike. More than 90 artificial islets are interconnected by a network of canals. Stone walls rise directly from the water. Certain structures feature walls several meters high and composed of carefully stacked basalt columns resembling enormous logs. The most famous district, known as Nanduas, served as a royal mortuary complex. Here, towering walls enclose sacred spaces, associated with elite burials and ceremonial activities. The atmosphere remains striking even today. Visitors walking among the ruins often describe a sense of isolation and mystery unlike any other archaeological site. Surrounded by water and hidden within tropical vegetation, Nanmadol feels detached from ordinary geography. It seems to belong to another world entirely. Local traditions add further layers to the mystery. According to oral histories, two brothers named Olasopa and Olasipa arrived from distant lands and used supernatural powers to move the massive stones into place. In some versions of the story, giant flying dragons assisted the construction effort. Such legends are not unusual. Monumental architecture frequently inspires narratives attempting to explain achievements that appear extraordinary even to later generations. While archaeologists seek practical explanations grounded in evidence, the legends themselves remain culturally important. They reflect how communities understood and remembered the origins of this remarkable place. Another fascinating aspect of Nanmadol involves its apparent separation from ordinary daily life. Unlike many ancient cities filled with large residential populations, the site seems to have functioned primarily as a ceremonial and political center. Most People likely lived elsewhere on Pohnpei, traveling to Nan Madol for specific purposes. Elite, rulers, priests, and administrators occupied key areas of the city, while ceremonies reinforced the authority of the Saudeleur dynasty. This specialized role distinguishes Nan Madol from many other urban centers. It was not merely a settlement. It was a carefully designed landscape of power, ritual, and symbolism. The environment itself contributed to the city's significance. Water surrounds every structure. Movement occurs through canals. Reflections shimmer across stone walls. The boundary between land and sea becomes blurred. Researchers believe this setting may have carried symbolic meaning connected to cosmology, authority, and spiritual beliefs. The city was not simply built within nature. It was integrated into it. Every aspect of the design appears deliberate. Yet despite decades of study, many details remain uncertain. Archaeologists continue debating construction methods, social organization, labor systems, and ceremonial functions. Each new discovery answers some questions while generating others. As the morning light brightens across the Pacific and waves continue lapping against walls that have stood for centuries, Nan Madol remains one of the world's greatest unsolved ancient mysteries. Rising directly from the sea, constructed from thousands of massive basalt stones, and located within one of the most remote regions on Earth, it challenges assumptions about what ancient societies could accomplish. The city stands as a testament to human ingenuity, cooperation, and ambition. Yet the exact methods by which it was built and the full meaning of its design remain elusive. Hidden among its canals and stone walls are secrets that archaeologists continue striving to understand, ensuring that Nan Madol remains one of history's most fascinating enigmas. As the day progresses over the warm waters surrounding Pohnpei and sunlight reflects from the ancient canals of Nan Madol, the deeper mystery of the city begins to emerge. The enormous stone walls and artificial islands inspire immediate wonder, but the true significance of the site lies in what it reveals about human organization, cultural achievement, and the limits of our historical understanding. Archaeological discoveries often challenge specific theories. Nan Madol challenges assumptions on a broader scale. It forces researchers to reconsider what was possible. For island societies operating far from the great continental civilizations that typically dominate history books, here, in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, a complex ceremonial city rose from coral reefs and volcanic stone. Its creators left no written records explaining their intentions. Yet, their accomplishments continue to command attention centuries later. One of the most intriguing questions concerns labor. Constructing Nan Madol required extraordinary effort sustained across generations. Tens of thousands of basalt columns had to be quarried, transported, and assembled. Artificial islets had to be created and maintained. Canals required planning and engineering. Such projects imply social systems capable of organizing large numbers of people toward common goals. How did the Saudeleur rulers accomplish this? Some researchers suggest that political authority, reinforced through religious beliefs, enabled leaders to mobilize labor on a massive scale. Others emphasize cooperation and communal obligations within island society. Whatever the exact mechanism, Nan Madol demonstrates a level of coordination often underestimated in discussions of Pacific history. The transportation of stone remains particularly fascinating. Modern visitors frequently wonder how builders moved multi-ton basalt columns without metal tools, wheeled vehicles, or large draft animals. Experiments have explored various possibilities. Some researchers propose the use of large canoes or rafts capable of floating heavy stones across water. Others suggest combinations of rollers, leverage systems, and coordinated human effort. Yet no single explanation has achieved universal acceptance. The challenge becomes even greater when considering the total volume of material involved. Moving one stone is impressive. Moving thousands over extended periods represents an entirely different level of logistical complexity. The mystery persists not because transportation was impossible, but because the precise methods remain uncertain. Nanmadol therefore continues inspiring both scientific investigation and public imagination. The layout of the city offers additional clues regarding its purpose. Archaeologists have identified specialized districts associated with different activities. Certain areas appear connected to elite residences. Others served ceremonial functions. Some structures may have housed priests, administrators, or members of the ruling dynasty. The organization of space reflects careful planning rather than random development. Every canal, wall, and platform contributes to a larger design. Such intentionality suggests that Nanmadol was conceived not merely as a practical settlement, but as a symbolic landscape expressing political and spiritual authority. Water plays a central role in this symbolism. Unlike most cities, where canals supplement existing streets and buildings, Nanmadol appears fundamentally shaped by its aquatic environment. Movement through the city often required boats. Water separated different districts and controlled access to important areas. Visitors approaching the site would encounter an environment unlike anything else in the Pacific. The experience itself may have reinforced the prestige and power of the ruling elite. Architecture becomes a form of communication. The city announces authority through scale, location, and design. Local oral traditions remain an essential part of the story. For generations, the people of Pohnpei preserved accounts explaining the origins of Nanmadol, while legends involving supernatural builders do not provide literal engineering instructions. They reveal something equally important: the site's extraordinary impact on cultural memory. Even centuries after its decline, people continued telling stories about how such a remarkable place came into existence. These traditions deserve attention not because they replace archaeological evidence, but because they offer insights into how communities understood their own history. Archaeology and oral tradition often illuminate different aspects of the past. Together, they create richer interpretations than either could provide alone. The decline of Nanmadol introduces another layer of mystery. By the time European visitors arrived, the city had largely lost its former importance. The Sautelur dynasty had fallen. Political power shifted elsewhere. Structures gradually deteriorated under tropical conditions. Vegetation spread across abandoned districts. Yet the reasons behind these transformations remain subjects of investigation. Environmental changes, political conflicts, social shifts, and external pressures may all have contributed. Like many ancient centers, Nanmadol experienced cycles of growth and decline, reflecting broader historical processes. Understanding those processes remains an ongoing challenge. Modern archaeological research continues uncovering new information. Advances in mapping technologies, environmental analysis, and excavation methods provide increasingly detailed perspectives on the site. Researchers study construction techniques, settlement patterns, ecological impacts, and regional interactions. Every discovery adds another piece to the puzzle. Yet many questions remain unanswered. large portions of the site have not been fully investigated. Future research may reveal evidence capable of clarifying long-standing debates. The possibility of new discoveries contributes significantly to Nan Madol's enduring appeal. It remains a living mystery rather than a completed chapter of history. The site also serves as a reminder that human achievement takes many forms. Historical narratives often focus on large empires, famous rulers, and continental civilizations. Nan Madol demonstrates that remarkable accomplishments emerged in diverse settings across the world. Island societies developed sophisticated political systems, navigational knowledge, engineering skills, and ceremonial traditions capable of producing monumental architecture. Their achievements deserve recognition, not because they resemble other civilizations, but because they represent unique responses to local environments and cultural circumstances. As afternoon sunlight begins softening across the Pacific and long shadows stretch over the ancient canals, Nan Madol continues standing between history and mystery. Its stone walls rise from the water much as they did centuries ago. Waves move through passages once navigated by rulers, priests, and visitors. Birds circle above ruins that still guard their secrets. Archaeologists have learned much about the city, yet fundamental questions endure. How exactly were the stones transported? What symbolic meanings shaped the design? How did rulers organize labor on such a scale? Why did the city eventually decline? The answers remain incomplete. Perhaps that is part of Nan Madol's power. It reminds us that even in an age of advanced technology and scientific investigation, some ancient mysteries continue, resisting easy explanation. Rising from the Pacific like a dream carved from stone, Nan Madol remains one of humanity's most extraordinary and enigmatic achievements, a place where the boundary between history and legend remains wonderfully blurred. Chapter 1. Segment 3, Longyou Caves, the underground world nobody remembered. As evening approaches across the green hills and river valleys of eastern China, a quiet stillness settles over the landscape. Villages rest beside winding waterways. Terraced fields climb gentle slopes. Ancient roads disappear into the distance beneath forests that have witnessed centuries of human history. At first glance, there seems to be nothing unusual about this region. Yet hidden beneath the earth lies one of the most astonishing archaeological mysteries ever discovered. Unlike Göbekli Tepe, which emerged from beneath a hill after thousands of years, or Nan Madol, whose stone walls rise dramatically from the Pacific Ocean, the Longyou Caves remained concealed underground, completely forgotten by history. For centuries, local people believed that certain ponds scattered throughout the region were bottomless. The water appeared dark and deep, and stories grew around these mysterious pools. Then, in 1992, an unexpected discovery transformed those legends into one of archaeology's greatest puzzles. When villagers began draining one of the ponds, they found something extraordinary beneath the water, a vast man-made cavern carved directly into solid rock. As more ponds were drained, additional chambers emerged. Eventually, archaeologists identified more than 20 enormous underground caves, each displaying remarkable engineering and craftsmanship. Yet despite their immense scale, no historical records described their construction, no inscriptions explained their purpose, and no clear evidence revealed who built them. The Longyou Caves appeared to belong to a forgotten chapter of human history that somehow vanished almost completely from memory. To understand the mystery, imagine standing in the region more than 2,000 years ago. The Surrounding landscape supports thriving communities connected through trade, agriculture, and local governance. China during this period possesses advanced technologies, organized states, and rich cultural traditions. People construct roads, canals, fortifications, and monumental architecture. Yet somewhere beneath the surface, workers undertake a project of astonishing ambition. Using hand tools, they begin excavating enormous chambers directly into sandstone bedrock. The task requires immense labor. Workers remove vast quantities of rock. Walls are shaped with remarkable precision. Pillars are left standing to support ceilings. Entire chambers emerge beneath the earth, and then they do it again and again. Eventually, a network of massive underground spaces takes form. Yet unlike many great construction projects, the Longyou Caves leave almost no trace in written history. This absence of documentation is perhaps the most puzzling aspect of all. The caves themselves are enormous. Some chambers exceed 30 meters in height. Together, they represent the removal of approximately 1 million cubic meters of stone. To appreciate the scale, imagine excavating a modern office building underground using only ancient tools. The amount of labor involved would be staggering. Researchers estimate that thousands of workers may have been required if the caves were created within a relatively short period. Such an undertaking would normally generate records, administrative documents, local traditions, or at least references in historical texts. Yet none have been found. Ancient China produced extensive written records covering many aspects of political, economic, and cultural life. The apparent absence of any clear mention of the Longyou Caves remains deeply perplexing. The craftsmanship displayed throughout the chambers adds another layer to the mystery. The walls, ceilings, and pillars feature distinctive parallel chisel marks covering nearly every surface. These marks are not random. They create a consistent pattern extending throughout the caves. Some researchers suggest the markings may have served practical purposes related to excavation techniques, or structural stability. Others believe they may have held aesthetic significance. Regardless of their exact purpose, the uniformity demonstrates careful planning and execution. The caves were not simply hollowed-out spaces. They were shaped deliberately according to a coherent design. Every chamber reflects attention to detail and engineering considerations. Structural stability appears particularly impressive. Despite existing underground for centuries, many chambers remain remarkably intact. Massive stone pillars support ceilings. Excavation patterns distribute weight effectively. Water management appears carefully considered. Builders understood how to create large underground spaces without causing catastrophic collapse. Such knowledge implies experience and expertise. Yet archaeologists still struggle to identify who possessed that expertise and why it was applied on such a scale. The caves raise fundamental questions about ancient engineering capabilities and organizational systems. What purpose could justify such an enormous investment of labor? Numerous theories have been proposed. Some researchers suggest the caves functioned as quarries from which building stone was extracted. However, this explanation encounters difficulties. If quarrying were the primary goal, why create such carefully shaped chambers? Why leave support pillars arranged so systematically? Why decorate surfaces with consistent patterns? Others propose that the caves served as underground storage facilities, military shelters, ceremonial spaces, or even royal construction projects. Each theory explains certain features while leaving others unresolved. No single interpretation has achieved widespread acceptance. The mystery persists precisely because the available evidence supports multiple possibilities without definitively confirming any of them. The discovery itself remains one of the most remarkable archaeological stories of the modern era. In 1992, local resident Wu and I became curious about the supposedly bottomless ponds. Believing that they might conceal something unusual, she organized efforts to pump water from one of them. As the water level dropped, stone walls began emerging from the darkness. Gradually, an enormous underground chamber appeared. News spread quickly. Archaeologists arrived to investigate. Additional ponds were drained, revealing more caves hidden beneath the landscape. It was as though an entire underground world had been waiting patiently for centuries to be rediscovered. The contrast between the scale of the caves and the complete absence of historical awareness is extraordinary. How could such a massive project disappear so thoroughly from collective memory? The surrounding environment contributes to the mystery as well. The caves are located in an area with a long history of human occupation. Numerous dynasties governed the region. Generations lived and worked above the hidden chambers without fully understanding what lay beneath their feet. Over time, entrances became obscured. Water filled the spaces. Legends replaced historical knowledge. The caves transitioned from active human constructions to forgotten features of the landscape. Their rediscovery reminds us how much of the past can disappear even within societies possessing extensive written traditions. History is fragile. Memory can fade. Entire achievements may vanish from awareness despite their enormous scale. As evening light fades across the hills and shadows lengthen above the ponds concealing these ancient chambers, the Longyou Caves remain one of archaeology's most fascinating enigmas. They demonstrate extraordinary engineering skill, immense labor investment, and careful planning. Yet fundamental questions endure. Who built them? Why were they created? How did such a massive project leave so little trace in historical records? The answers remain hidden, somewhere within the stone walls, waiting for future discoveries to illuminate a forgotten chapter of the ancient world. As darkness settles across the countryside above the Longyou Caves and the hidden chambers remains silent beneath the earth, the deeper mystery begins to unfold. Archaeological discoveries often reveal forgotten structures, lost settlements, or ancient artifacts. Yet few discoveries challenge historical understanding in quite the same way as Longyou. Most ancient monuments leave traces beyond their physical remains. They appear in texts, oral traditions, administrative records, or later historical accounts. Even when details are lost, some memory usually survives. The Longyou Caves seem different. They represent an immense construction project requiring tremendous effort, yet they emerged into modern awareness almost as if they had appeared from nowhere. This combination of scale and historical silence makes them one of the most puzzling archaeological sites in the world. Imagine the organizational challenge involved in creating a single cave. Workers would first need to identify suitable bedrock. Tools would have to be manufactured and maintained. Excavated material would require removal. Structural supports would need careful planning. Lighting systems would be necessary for underground work. Food, water, and supplies would have to reach laborers. Supervisors would coordinate activities. Skilled craftsmen would shape walls and pillars. Now multiply this process across more than 20 massive chambers. The result is a project rivaling some of the largest engineering efforts of the ancient world. Such undertakings rarely occur without powerful motivations. Yet the exact motivation behind Longyou remains elusive. One reason the caves continue attracting attention is their unusual consistency. Although each chamber possesses unique features, many share common design principles. Pillars support ceilings in comparable ways. Chisel patterns cover surfaces. Throughout multiple caves, layouts reflect deliberate planning rather than random excavation. This suggests centralized organization or shared architectural traditions. Builders followed established methods rather than improvising. The caves therefore appear to belong to a coordinated project rather than a collection of unrelated efforts. Identifying the society responsible for that coordination remains one of the central challenges facing researchers. Dating the caves has proven difficult. Unlike sites containing abundant organic materials suitable for radiocarbon analysis, the Longyou caves consist primarily of carved stone. Archaeologists rely upon indirect evidence including tool marks, associated artifacts, geological observations, and historical context. Many researchers believe construction occurred during the Qin or Han periods, roughly 2,000 years ago. These eras witnessed large-scale state projects elsewhere in China, making them plausible candidates. Yet definitive proof remains absent. Without inscriptions or clearly datable materials, precise chronology remains uncertain. This uncertainty complicates efforts to understand purpose and historical significance. The theories proposed over the years reveal both the richness of the mystery and the difficulty of solving it. Quarrying remains one possibility because excavation necessarily removed enormous quantities of stone. However, critics note that practical quarries typically prioritize efficiency over aesthetics. The carefully arranged pillars and consistent surface treatments visible in Longyou seem unusual if stone extraction alone was the objective. Storage facilities represent another theory. Underground environments can provide stable conditions useful for preserving goods. Yet the immense scale of the caves appears excessive for ordinary storage needs. Military functions have also been suggested. Hidden underground chambers might serve defensive purposes during times of conflict. Again, however, certain architectural features resist straightforward military interpretation. Some researchers explore ceremonial or symbolic explanations, proposing that the caves held religious, political, or ritual significance. Such ideas remain intriguing but difficult to verify. The caves preserve evidence of activity while withholding definitive explanations. Water plays a fascinating role in both the history and mystery of the site. For centuries, the chambers remained submerged beneath ponds. This flooding helped preserve them while simultaneously concealing them from view. The water contributed to local legends regarding bottomless pools. People living nearby observed unusual features but lacked knowledge of their origins. The transformation from active construction project to forgotten underwater chamber illustrates how dramatically landscapes can change over time. Human creations disappear. Natural processes reshape environments. Memory fades. Eventually, even extraordinary achievements may become invisible. The rediscovery of Longyou reminds us that history often survives through unexpected circumstances. Modern technology continues providing new perspectives. Three-dimensional mapping allows researchers to document chamber geometry with remarkable precision. Geological studies examine excavation methods and structural stability. Comparative analyses explore similarities with other ancient underground sites. Yet despite these advances, many fundamental questions remain unresolved. Every new investigation generates valuable information while highlighting the complexity of the puzzle. Archaeologists possess extraordinary tools, but some mysteries resist easy solutions. The Longyou caves occupy that category. Their significance extends beyond China because they illustrate broader themes within archaeology. Human societies are capable of remarkable achievements. Not all achievements survive within historical records. Discovery often raises new questions rather than providing final answers. The caves challenge assumptions regarding what we know about the past and how we know it. They remind us that even in regions with extensive historical documentation, important chapters may remain hidden. Beneath familiar landscapes lie traces of forgotten worlds waiting to be rediscovered. Perhaps the most compelling aspect of Longyou is the contrast between visibility and invisibility. The caves themselves are enormous. Their construction required immense effort. They are physically undeniable. Yet for centuries, they remained absent from historical awareness. This contradiction captures something essential about archaeology. The past is never fully gone. It persists beneath the surface, sometimes literally, waiting for circumstances to reveal it once more. The rediscovery of Longyou transformed local legends into global mystery. It demonstrated that remarkable discoveries remain possible even in well-studied regions. As the night deepens above, the hidden chambers and silence fills the vast underground spaces carved by unknown hands long ago. The Longyou caves continue guarding their secrets. Their walls preserve evidence of skill, planning, and ambition. Their existence challenges conventional explanations. Their origins remain uncertain. Perhaps future excavations, new technologies, or unexpected discoveries will eventually provide answers. Or perhaps certain aspects of the mystery will endure indefinitely. For now, the Longyou caves remain one of the world's greatest unsolved ancient enigmas, an underground world so vast that it should never have been forgotten, and yet somehow was. Chapter 2, Segment 1, Puma Punku, the Precision Stone Mystery. As the first light of dawn spreads across the high plains of the Andes and the cold mountain air drifts across the vast landscape surrounding Lake Titicaca, we arrive at one of the most debated archaeological sites in the world. The altitude is breathtaking. Snow-capped peaks stand in the distance. Golden grasses ripple across the windswept plateau. The sky seems impossibly large. At more than 3,800 meters above sea level, this region has challenged human survival for thousands of years. Yet long before European explorers reached South America, ancient societies not only survived here but built cities, temples, agricultural systems, and monumental stone structures that continue to inspire admiration today. Among the most mysterious of these sites is Puma Punku, a ruined complex associated with the ancient Tiwanaku civilization. At first glance, the scattered stones appear chaotic, as though a giant hand had tossed them across the landscape. Massive blocks lie partially buried in the earth. Others rest at unusual angles. Yet a closer examination reveals something extraordinary. Many stones display astonishing precision. Straight edges, sharp corners, perfectly fitted joints, drilled holes, and remarkably consistent geometric forms have led some observers to describe Puma Punku as one of the greatest engineering mysteries of the ancient world. How did people working more than 1,000 years ago create structures with such apparent accuracy? And what purpose did these remarkable stones serve? To understand the mystery, imagine the region during the height of the Tiwanaku civilization. Between approximately 500 and 1000 CE, the city of Tiwanaku stands as one of the most important urban centers in ancient South America. Thousands of people live within its sphere of influence. Farmers cultivate crops adapted to the harsh high-altitude environment. Trade networks connect distant regions. Religious ceremonies attract pilgrims and visitors. Skilled artisans produce textiles, ceramics, metalwork, and stone carvings. The society demonstrates remarkable organizational capabilities. Within this context, Pumapunku emerges as a monumental architectural project unlike anything else in the region. Although much of the structure now lies in ruins, archaeologists believe it once formed part of a larger ceremonial complex associated with religious and political activities. The site's builders selected enormous sandstone and andesite blocks, transported them across considerable distances, shaped them with exceptional care, and assembled them into sophisticated architectural arrangements. The scale of the achievement becomes immediately apparent when considering the stones themselves. Some blocks weigh more than 100 tons. Others, while smaller, display intricate geometric features requiring detailed craftsmanship. Particularly famous are the so-called H blocks, stone elements carved into highly regular shapes with multiple right angles, recessed sections, and precisely aligned surfaces. To modern observers accustomed to machine-made objects, these stones often appear surprisingly advanced. Their clean lines and geometric consistency have fueled decades of speculation. Some enthusiasts have proposed extraordinary explanations involving lost technologies, forgotten civilizations, or even visitors from beyond Earth. Yet archaeologists generally seek answers grounded in evidence, focusing on the capabilities of the Tiwanaku people themselves. Even without invoking extraordinary theories, the accomplishments remain impressive. One of the most fascinating questions concerns stoneworking techniques. The Tiwanaku builders lacked iron tools. They possessed no modern machinery, no steel saws, and no powered drills. Yet they successfully shaped extremely hard stone with remarkable precision. Researchers have identified evidence suggesting the use of hammerstones, abrasives, pecking techniques, grinding methods, and careful measurement. Stoneworking on this scale required patience, skill, and accumulated knowledge passed through generations. The apparent precision visible today did not emerge through magic or unknown technologies. It emerged through human expertise. Nevertheless, the exact methods used for certain features continue generating discussion. Every carved surface invites questions regarding the techniques and tools involved. Transportation presents another major challenge. Some stones originated from quarries located several kilometers away. Andesite blocks may have traveled even greater distances, possibly crossing portions of Lake Titicaca before reaching the site. Imagine the logistical effort required. Massive stones weighing tens of tons must be moved across difficult terrain at high altitude. No wheeled vehicles are available. No horses, oxen, or other large draft animals assist the process. Human labor provides the primary source of power. Archaeologists propose combinations of ramps, ropes, sledges, rollers, and coordinated teamwork. Experimental studies demonstrate that such methods are feasible, though undoubtedly demanding. The achievement becomes no less remarkable simply because practical explanations exist. On the contrary, understanding the human effort involved often increases appreciation for the builder's capabilities. The architectural design of Pumapunku adds further intrigue. Many stones appear engineered to fit together according to standardized patterns. Some contain precisely positioned holes suggesting the use of metal clamps. Archaeologists have discovered evidence that copper alloy fasteners helped connect certain blocks. This technique enhanced structural stability and reflects sophisticated engineering knowledge. The builders understood not only how to shape stone, but how to assemble complex structures capable of enduring environmental stresses. Such details reveal careful planning extending far beyond individual blocks. The broader layout of the site remains partially uncertain because much of the original architecture has collapsed or been dismantled over time. Earthquakes, environmental processes, and human activities contributed to the destruction. As a result, archaeologists must reconstruct ancient arrangements using scattered evidence. This challenge has fueled speculation because incomplete remains invite multiple interpretations. Yet even in their ruined state, the stones communicate a sense of ambition and technical achievement. The cultural context of Tiwanaku is essential for understanding Pumapunku. The civilization responsible for the site was not isolated. It formed part of a broader tradition of Andean societies known for impressive engineering, agricultural innovation, and monumental architecture. Terraced fields, raised agricultural platforms, road systems, and ceremonial centers demonstrate widespread technical expertise. Pumapunku should therefore be viewed not as an inexplicable anomaly, but as one expression of a highly capable civilization. The mystery lies not in whether ancient people could achieve such feats, but in understanding exactly how they organized labor, transmitted knowledge, and executed projects of this scale. As the morning sun rises higher above the Andean plateau and shadows move across the weathered stones, Pumapunku continues captivating visitors from around the world. Its precisely carved blocks challenge assumptions about ancient technology. Its ruined architecture hints at a grand design no longer fully visible. Its builders left behind no detailed construction manuals explaining their methods. Yet the evidence they did leave reveals a society of remarkable skill and determination. More than 1,000 years after its construction, the site remains both an archaeological treasure and a mystery. The stones continue asking questions that researchers strive to answer, ensuring that Pumapunku remains one of history's most fascinating engineering enigmas. As the day advances across the high Andean plateau and sunlight illuminates the geometric stones scattered throughout Pumapunku, the deeper mystery begins to unfold. Much of the fascination surrounding the site stems not simply from what archaeologists know, but from the gap between what is visible and what remains uncertain. The ruins present evidence of extraordinary craftsmanship, yet they survive only as fragments of a much larger architectural vision. Time, earthquakes, environmental change, and human activity have transformed the site dramatically. What visitors see today is not Pumapunku as its builders intended, but the remains of a monument partially dismantled by centuries of history. Reconstructing that lost vision is one of archaeology's greatest challenges. Every stone offers clues, but many pieces of the puzzle are missing. Imagine standing within the completed complex during the height of Tiwanaku. Influence. Monumental platforms rise above the surrounding landscape, carefully aligned. Structures frame ceremonial spaces. Pilgrims and visitors move through the site during religious gatherings. Priests conduct rituals connected to cosmology, authority, and sacred traditions. The architecture communicates power and order. Massive stone blocks fit together with impressive precision. Decorative elements enhance symbolic meanings. The entire complex functions as more than a collection of buildings. It serves as a statement about the society that created it. Although archaeologists continue debating specific details, most agree that Pumapunka held ceremonial significance within the broader Tiwanaku world. Understanding that context helps explain why builders invested so much effort in construction. Monumental architecture often expresses ideas as much as practical needs. One of the most discussed features of Pumapunku involves the apparent precision of the stonework. Photographs frequently circulate showing perfectly straight edges, sharply defined angles, and geometric forms that seem almost modern in appearance. These images have inspired countless theories. Some claim the stones demonstrate technologies beyond what ancient societies could achieve. Others suggest lost knowledge, unavailable to later civilizations. Yet detailed archaeological research paints a more nuanced picture. Careful measurement reveals that while many stones are impressively crafted, they are not uniformly perfect according to modern industrial standards. Small variations exist. Surface irregularities remain visible. The precision is remarkable, but it reflects skilled human workmanship rather than machine production. This distinction matters because it highlights the true achievement of the builders. Their accomplishments become more impressive when understood as products of expertise, patience, and experience rather than mysterious, unknown forces. The H-blocks remain among the site's most intriguing elements. These distinctive stones appear designed according to standardized principles. Multiple examples share similar dimensions and features, suggesting deliberate planning. Archaeologists have proposed that they functioned as components within larger architectural systems, perhaps fitting together in modular arrangements. If correct, this would indicate sophisticated design concepts involving standardization and repeatability. Such approaches are often associated with advanced engineering traditions. The presence of standardized components suggests that builders followed established plans rather than improvising each element individually. Transportation continues to be one of the most challenging aspects of the mystery. Moving stones weighing dozens of tons across difficult terrain requires considerable organization. Experimental archaeology has demonstrated that human labor, combined with simple technologies, can accomplish impressive feats. Nevertheless, coordinating such efforts demands leadership, planning, and resources. The transportation of andesite blocks from distant sources implies regional networks capable of supporting major construction projects. Pumapunku therefore provides insights not only into engineering but also into social organization. Monumental architecture reflects the capacity of societies to mobilize people toward shared goals. Another fascinating feature involves the use of metal clamps. Researchers have identified evidence that certain stones were connected using copper-based fasteners poured into specially carved recesses. This technique improved structural stability and demonstrates an understanding of both stoneworking and metallurgy. The integration of different materials within architectural systems reveals technical sophistication extending beyond any single craft. Builders combine knowledge from multiple domains to achieve desired results. Such interdisciplinary expertise characterizes many of history's greatest engineering traditions. The collapse of the site adds complexity to modern interpretation. Earthquakes likely contributed to the displacement of many stones. Over centuries, local populations reused building materials. Natural erosion altered the landscape. As a result, archaeologists often work with incomplete evidence. Reconstructing original arrangements requires careful analysis of surviving features, historical accounts, and comparative examples. This uncertainty creates space for speculation. Yet it also highlights an important reality. Archaeology frequently involves interpreting fragments rather than complete structures. The challenge is not merely discovering evidence, but understanding how surviving pieces fit together. The broader cultural achievements of Tiwanaku help place Pumapunku within a meaningful context. The civilization developed innovative agricultural techniques adapted to high-altitude conditions. Raised fields improved crop production and reduced environmental risks. Trade networks connected diverse regions. Artistic traditions flourished. Monumental architecture appeared at multiple sites. These accomplishments demonstrate that Tiwanaku society possessed the organizational capacity necessary for ambitious projects. Pumapunku emerges not as an isolated anomaly, but as part of a larger pattern of innovation and expertise. Appreciating that context allows us to recognize the builders as active creators rather than passive participants in history. Modern scientific techniques continue contributing new insights. Three-dimensional scanning documents stone surfaces with extraordinary precision. Geological studies identify quarry sources. Experimental archaeology tests hypotheses regarding transportation and construction methods. Digital reconstructions explore possible architectural arrangements. Each approach adds valuable information while also revealing new questions. The process of discovery remains ongoing. Archaeology rarely produces final answers. Instead, it gradually refines understanding through accumulated evidence. As afternoon sunlight stretches across the plateau and long shadows form between the weathered stones, Pumapunku continues standing at the intersection of knowledge and mystery. The site demonstrates what determined human beings can accomplish through skill, cooperation, and vision. At the same time, it reminds us that important aspects of the past remain uncertain. We know the builders possessed remarkable abilities. We know they transported and shaped enormous stones. We know they created a monumental complex serving significant cultural purposes. Yet many details regarding techniques, symbolism, and original design remain incomplete. Perhaps future discoveries will clarify some of these mysteries. Or perhaps certain questions will endure indefinitely. Either way, Pumapunku remains one of the world's most compelling archaeological enigmas, a place where extraordinary craftsmanship continues, inspiring wonder more than 1,000 years after the last builders laid down their tools. Chapter 2, Segment 2, Nazca Lines, Drawings Made for the Sky. As the morning sun rises over the vast deserts of southern Peru, golden light spreads across one of the driest landscapes on Earth. Endless plains of reddish-brown stone stretch toward distant mountains. The air is still. Rain falls so rarely here that some surfaces have remained largely unchanged for thousands of years. To a traveler standing on the ground, the landscape appears almost empty. There are no towering monuments, no massive temples, and no obvious signs of ancient construction. Yet hidden within the desert floor lies one of the greatest archaeological mysteries ever discovered. Stretching across hundreds of square kilometers are enormous lines. Geometric patterns, spirals, trapezoids, and giant figures depicting animals, birds, plants, and other forms. Some extend for hundreds of meters. Others are so large that their full shapes become visible only from high above the ground. Together they are known as the Nazca Lines, one of the most extraordinary achievements of the ancient world and one of history's most enduring mysteries. For nearly a century, archaeologists, historians, pilots, and researchers have debated a Simple but fascinating question. Why did the people of the Nazca culture create enormous drawings that seem designed to be viewed from the sky? To understand the mystery, imagine the region nearly 2,000 years ago. The Nazca civilization flourishes along the arid southern coast of Peru between approximately 100 BCE and 800 CE. Life here requires adaptation to challenging environmental conditions. Water is precious. Agriculture depends upon careful management of limited resources. Communities construct irrigation systems, cultivate crops, produce beautiful ceramics, and develop rich ceremonial traditions. Far from being isolated, the Nazca people possess sophisticated knowledge of their environment and maintain cultural practices passed through generations. Within this context, they begin creating something unlike anything else known in the ancient world. Using simple tools and careful planning, they remove dark surface stones from the desert floor, exposing lighter soil beneath. The contrast creates visible lines and shapes. Over time, the designs multiply. Straight lines stretch across the landscape. Geometric figures appear. Then come the famous animal forms. A hummingbird, a spider, a monkey, a condor, a whale, and many others. Each figure is enormous. Some are larger than modern sports fields. Yet despite their size, the lines remain remarkably precise. Creating them required planning, measurement, and coordination. The question is not whether the Nazca people could make such designs. Archaeologists have demonstrated that simple surveying methods are sufficient. The deeper mystery concerns purpose. Why invest so much effort in creating images that cannot be fully appreciated from ground level? The modern rediscovery of the Nazca lines began during the 20th century. Local residents had long known of certain markings, but their true scale became apparent only with the advent of aviation. Pilots flying over the desert observed enormous patterns invisible from nearby viewpoints. Suddenly, a hidden world emerged from the landscape. Researchers soon realized that the markings represented one of the largest archaeological artworks ever created. Interest grew rapidly. The lines appeared so unusual that they inspired countless theories. Some observers proposed connections to astronomy. Others suggested ceremonial pathways, water rituals, religious symbolism, or communication with supernatural beings. More imaginative speculations even involved extraterrestrial visitors. Yet despite decades of study, no single explanation has fully resolved the mystery. One reason the Nazca lines continue captivating researchers is their extraordinary diversity. Not all lines are the same. Some consist of simple straight paths extending for kilometers. Others form geometric shapes including triangles, rectangles, trapezoids, and spirals. Still others depict recognizable living creatures with remarkable artistic skill. The hummingbird stretches across the desert with delicate precision. The spider displays carefully proportioned legs. The monkey curls into a distinctive spiral tail. Each figure required both artistic vision and technical execution. The builders transformed an immense landscape into a canvas, preserving the lines. Because rainfall is extremely rare and winds are generally mild, the markings survive for centuries with relatively little erosion. In wetter climates, such designs would disappear quickly. Here, however, the desert protected them. The lines remained visible, generation after generation, creating a cultural landscape that endured far beyond the lives of the people who first created it. This preservation allows modern researchers to study one of humanity's most ambitious artistic and ceremonial projects. Astronomy became one of the earliest. Major explanations proposed for the lines. Some researchers suggested that certain alignments corresponded with the positions of stars, planets, or solar events. According to this interpretation, the Nazca people may have used the desert as a giant astronomical calendar. While some alignments undoubtedly exist, later studies found that many proposed correlations could occur by chance given the large number of lines present. Modern archaeologists generally view purely astronomical explanations as incomplete. The lines likely served multiple purposes rather than a single function. Water remains another important area of investigation. In an environment where survival depended upon access to water, ritual practices associated with fertility, rainfall, and agricultural success held great significance. Some researchers propose that the lines formed part of ceremonial activities connected to these concerns. Participants may have walked along specific pathways during rituals intended to honor deities or ensure agricultural prosperity. The vast scale of the designs would reinforce their symbolic importance within the broader landscape. Animal imagery adds further complexity. The creatures depicted in the geoglyphs likely carried cultural meanings understood by the Nazca people. Birds, spiders, monkeys, and marine animals appear repeatedly within Nazca art beyond the desert lines. These figures may have represented spiritual beings, mythological narratives, ecological forces, or ceremonial symbols. Without written records, certainty remains impossible. Yet the consistency of certain motifs suggests connections between the geoglyphs and broader cultural traditions. The lines were not isolated creations. They formed part of a larger symbolic world. Archaeological excavations near some line complexes have uncovered evidence of offerings, pottery fragments, ceremonial activity, and human presence. Such discoveries support interpretations emphasizing ritual rather than purely practical functions. People visited these spaces intentionally. The desert itself may have been regarded as sacred. Creating and maintaining the lines could have constituted acts of devotion, community, cooperation, or communication with supernatural powers. The landscape became both artwork and ceremonial environment. As the morning sun climbs higher above the Peruvian desert and the giant figures slowly emerge in the shifting light, the Nazca lines remain among the most remarkable mysteries of the ancient world. Their creators left no written explanation. Their purpose continues generating debate. Yet their existence reveals extraordinary creativity, organization, and imagination. Across hundreds of square kilometers, the Nazca people transformed the earth itself into a monumental expression of culture and belief. More than 1,000 years later, the lines still invite wonder, asking questions that archaeologists continue striving to answer. As the day progresses across the vast plains of southern Peru and sunlight sharpens the contrast between dark desert stones and the pale lines beneath them, the deeper mystery of the Nazca lines begins to unfold. The figures themselves are astonishing, but perhaps even more remarkable is the fact that they were created within a living cultural landscape. The lines were not isolated works of art scattered randomly across the desert. They formed part of a larger world shaped by religion, environmental challenges, social cooperation, and human imagination. Understanding that world remains one of archaeology's greatest challenges because the people who created the lines left behind no written records explaining their intentions. Instead, researchers must reconstruct meaning through careful study of artifacts, settlements, ceremonial sites, and the lines themselves. Every discovery adds another piece to the puzzle, yet the complete picture remains elusive. Imagine standing on the desert floor during a ceremonial gathering nearly 2,000 years ago. The air is dry and still. Mountains rise in the distance. Participants move across carefully prepared pathways etched into the landscape. Offerings are carried. Rituals unfold according to traditions passed down through generations. From ground level, individuals cannot see the entire geoglyphs surrounding them. Instead, they experience the lines as physical spaces through which they travel. This perspective has become increasingly important in modern archaeological interpretations. Rather than assuming the figures were meant primarily for visual observation from above, some researchers suggest that movement itself may have been central to their purpose. Walking along the lines could transform the landscape into a ceremonial stage, where rituals connected communities with sacred forces, ancestors, or deities. One reason this interpretation has gained support is the discovery of pathways integrated into certain line systems. Archaeologists have identified evidence suggesting that people regularly traversed portions of the geoglyph landscape. Foot traffic, offerings, and associated ceremonial materials indicate active use rather than passive observation. The lines may therefore have functioned as ritual routes, linking important locations. In this view, the giant figures become part of a broader ceremonial environment. Their enormous scale enhances symbolic significance even if participants never viewed them in their entirety. Monumentality does not always require complete visibility. Sometimes the act of creation itself carries meaning. Water remains central to many theories because of the environmental realities facing the Nazca people. Southern Peru is one of the driest inhabited regions on Earth. Successful agriculture depends upon careful management of limited water resources. Ancient communities developed ingenious systems for accessing underground water and supporting crops despite harsh conditions. Given this context, it is not surprising that many scholars see connections between the lines and rituals associated with fertility, rainfall, and agricultural abundance. Certain geoglyphs may symbolize animals or forces linked to water. Ceremonial activities conducted within the landscape could have expressed hopes for successful harvests and environmental stability. While direct proof remains limited, the relationship between ritual and water continues to play an important role in interpretations of the site. The animal figures themselves offer fascinating clues. The hummingbird, spider, monkey, condor, whale, and other creatures depicted across the desert likely held symbolic significance within Nazca culture. Similar imagery appears on ceramics, textiles, and other artifacts. This repetition suggests that the animals represented concepts extending beyond simple decoration. They may have embodied mythological beings, spiritual powers, ecological relationships, or ceremonial identities. Understanding those meanings remains difficult because cultural contexts have changed dramatically over the centuries. Yet the persistence of certain motifs across different forms of art indicates that the geoglyphs participated in a broader symbolic system. They were expressions of ideas deeply embedded within Nazca society. Another intriguing aspect of the mystery involves the practical process of construction, planning, and coordination. Researchers have demonstrated that relatively simple surveying techniques allow accurate designs without aerial perspectives. Wooden stakes, ropes, measurements, and careful observation are sufficient. Experimental projects have successfully recreated smaller geoglyphs using methods available to ancient peoples. These demonstrations confirm that the lines do not require lost technologies or extraordinary explanations. The true achievement lies in the organization and commitment necessary to execute projects of such scale, repeatedly across generations. Human creativity and cooperation provide adequate explanations, yet they remain impressive in their own right. The popularity of more exotic theories reveals something interesting about human psychology. Because the Nazca lines appear unusual and mysterious, some people find ordinary explanations unsatisfying. Proposals involving extraterrestrial visitors, advanced lost civilizations, or unknown technologies attract attention because they transform mystery into spectacle. Yet archaeological evidence consistently points toward the capabilities of the Nazca people themselves. Recognizing their achievements does not diminish the wonder of the lines. On the contrary, it highlights the remarkable ingenuity of ancient societies. The creators of the geoglyphs possessed artistic vision, environmental knowledge, organizational skills, and cultural motivations powerful enough to reshape an entire landscape. Modern technology continues revealing new information. Satellite imagery, drones, and aerial surveys have identified additional geoglyphs previously unknown to researchers. Some are relatively small, others extend established patterns. Every new discovery demonstrates that the geoglyph landscape is even more extensive than earlier generations realized. Advances in mapping allow archaeologists to study relationships between figures, pathways, settlements, and environmental features with unprecedented detail. The process of discovery remains ongoing. Far from being a solved mystery, the Nazca lines continue generating fresh questions and insights. Preservation presents another challenge. Despite surviving for centuries, the lines remain vulnerable. Modern development, vehicle traffic, erosion, and environmental changes threaten portions of the landscape. Conservation efforts seek to protect this unique cultural heritage for future generations. The geoglyphs are not merely archaeological curiosities. They represent one of humanity's most ambitious artistic achievements, a testament to the ability of ancient communities to transform environments through collective action and symbolic expression. As afternoon sunlight stretches across the desert, and the giant figures cast subtle shadows visible only from above, the Nazca lines remain suspended between knowledge and mystery. Archaeologists understand far more about them today than they did a century ago. We know who created them. We understand many aspects of their cultural context. We recognize the techniques used in their construction. Yet the precise meanings of specific figures, the details of associated rituals, and the full significance of the landscape continue inspiring debate. Perhaps that uncertainty is part of their enduring appeal. The lines invite us to imagine a world where art, ceremony, environment, and belief merged on a monumental scale. They remind us that ancient people viewed landscapes not merely as places to live, but as canvases upon which profound ideas could be expressed. More than 1,000 years after their creation, the Nazca lines continue speaking across time. Their message is still partially hidden beneath the endless sky of the Peruvian desert. Chapter 2, Segment 3, Yonaguni Monument, Lost City Beneath the Sea or Natural Wonder. As the first light of dawn spreads across the waters of the western Pacific Ocean and gentle waves roll toward the southern islands of Japan, we arrive at one of the most controversial and fascinating mysteries in the ancient world. Beneath the surface of the sea, hidden among coral formations and powerful ocean currents, lies a massive underwater structure that has inspired decades of debate. Some researchers believe it may represent one of the greatest archaeological discoveries ever made, a lost city submerged beneath the waves thousands of years ago. Others argue that it is a natural geological formation shaped by the forces of nature rather than human hands. The site is known as the Yonaguni Monument, named after the nearby island of Yonaguni, the westernmost inhabited island of Japan. Since its discovery in the 1980s, the monument has become one of history's most enduring mysteries. Unlike Göbekli Tepe, Nanmadol, or Puma Punku, where there is broad agreement that humans constructed the sites in question, Yonaguni occupies a unique position between archaeology and geology. Before researchers can determine why it exists, they must first answer a more fundamental question: was it ever built at all? To understand the mystery, imagine standing on the coastline of Yonaguni thousands of years ago. The island rises from the sea along the edge of the East China Sea, a region shaped by earthquakes, volcanic activity, shifting tectonic plates, and changing sea levels. During the last ice age, global sea levels were significantly lower than they are today. Vast areas of land that now lie underwater once stood exposed to the air. As glaciers melted and oceans gradually rose, coastlines shifted dramatically. Ancient landscapes disappeared beneath the waves. Across the world, evidence of these changes remains preserved beneath modern seas. Because of this history, the possibility of submerged archaeological sites is not unreasonable. Human communities often settled near coastlines, rivers, and sources of food. If ancient settlements once existed on lands later flooded by rising oceans, traces might still survive underwater. It is within this broader context that the mystery of Yonaguni emerged. The modern story began in 1986 when local diver Kahachiro Aratake was searching for good locations to observe hammerhead sharks. While exploring beneath the waters near Yonaguni, he noticed something unusual. Rising from the seafloor was a massive stone formation unlike anything he had seen before. Large flat surfaces appeared to form terraces. Sharp edges and angular shapes created the impression of deliberate design. Broad stair-like features seemed to ascend through the structure. News of the discovery spread quickly, attracting divers, geologists, archaeologists, and curious observers from around the world. As photographs and videos circulated, many people were astonished by what they saw. The monument appeared to contain enormous stone platforms, straight edges, right angles, and geometric patterns that resembled architecture. Some sections looked remarkably like staircases. Others resembled roads, plazas, walls, or ceremonial terraces. To supporters of the archaeological interpretation, the structure seemed far too organized to be explained by natural processes alone. The monument itself is enormous. Portions rise more than 25 meters from the seafloor. Flat surfaces extend across significant distances. Certain sections appear divided into levels, resembling terraces or platforms. Viewed from particular angles, the formation evokes images of ancient pyramids, step temples, or monumental civic architecture. It is easy to understand why some observers immediately suspected human involvement. The site possesses an undeniable visual impact. Divers descending through the clear blue water often describe a sense of entering another world, a submerged landscape that appears strangely familiar despite its underwater setting. One of the strongest arguments supporting the possibility of human construction involves the apparent geometric precision visible in certain features. Straight lines intersect at angles that seem deliberate. Large stone faces appear unusually smooth. Some researchers point to features resembling staircases and pathways. Others have identified formations they interpret as walls, gateways, or even carved symbols. If these interpretations are correct, the implications would be extraordinary. Depending on its age, Yonaguni could represent evidence of a sophisticated coastal culture predating many known civilizations. Such a discovery would dramatically reshape understandings of ancient human history in East Asia. Yet extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and this is where the debate becomes complicated. Many geologists argue that the monument can be explained through entirely natural processes. The rocks forming the structure belong to sedimentary formations characterized by natural planes of weakness. Over long periods, tectonic activity, erosion, fracturing, and ocean currents can produce remarkably geometric shapes. In regions with layered sandstone and mudstone, natural fractures often create straight edges and angular surfaces. What appears architectural to the human eye may result from geological processes operating over thousands or millions of years. According to this interpretation, the monument's apparent staircases and terraces are products of nature rather than engineering. Human beings are naturally inclined to recognize patterns, especially patterns resembling familiar structures. This tendency can sometimes lead observers to perceive design where none exists. The debate intensified as researchers conducted more detailed investigations. Underlying formation is natural. In this hybrid interpretation, ancient people may have altered existing rock formations, carving or adapting them for specific purposes. Such practices occurred elsewhere in the ancient world. Natural landscapes often became integrated into ceremonial architecture. If this explanation proves correct, both sides of the debate could contain elements of truth. The monument may be neither entirely natural nor entirely artificial. It could represent a complex interaction between geology and human activity. The underwater environment adds significant challenges to interpretation. Marine growth covers many surfaces. Visibility varies depending on conditions. Detailed excavation is difficult. Evidence that might clarify the debate remains limited compared to what archaeologists typically encounter at terrestrial sites. Unlike cities buried beneath soil, underwater formations present unique methodological obstacles. Researchers must rely heavily on visual analysis, geological studies, and limited sampling. These constraints contribute to the ongoing uncertainty. As the morning sun rises higher above the Pacific and light penetrates the clear waters surrounding Yonaguni, the monument continues guarding its secrets, whether natural formation, human construction, or some combination of both. It remains one of the most intriguing mysteries in the world. The structure challenges researchers to distinguish between geological processes and possible human intervention. More importantly, it reminds us how much of the Earth's history remains hidden beneath the oceans. The answers may lie somewhere within the stone itself, waiting for future discoveries to reveal whether Yonaguni represents a lost chapter of human civilization or one of nature's most remarkable creations. As the day advances over the waters surrounding Yonaguni and sunlight filters through the ocean depths, illuminating the massive stone formations below, the mystery grows even deeper. The debate surrounding the Yonaguni monument is not merely a disagreement about one underwater structure. It touches upon larger questions regarding human history, geological processes, and the challenges of interpreting evidence from the distant past. Few archaeological controversies have persisted for so long while remaining so unresolved. Decades after its discovery, experts continue examining the same stone surfaces and arriving at different conclusions. Some see the unmistakable fingerprints of human engineering. Others see equally convincing evidence of natural geological formation. The monument occupies a fascinating space where certainty remains elusive and where every new observation seems to support multiple interpretations at once. Imagine descending beneath the waves toward the monument itself. The water grows cooler as you move deeper. Schools of fish glide through the currents. Coral and marine life cling to portions of the stone. Gradually, enormous terraces emerge from the blue darkness. Flat surfaces stretch outward. Sharp edges appear unexpectedly geometric. Large steps seem to rise from one level to another. Standing upon these formations, it is easy to understand why visitors often describe the site as city-like. Human beings naturally compare unfamiliar landscapes to known structures. Stair-like formations resemble stairs. Platforms resemble plazas. Vertical faces resemble walls. Yet perception alone cannot determine origin. Archaeology requires evidence capable of distinguishing appearance from reality. The challenge at Yonaguni is that both natural and artificial explanations can account for many visible features. One of the most influential supporters of the archaeological interpretation has been marine geologist Masaaki Kimura, who spent years studying the site. Kimura argued that certain features are difficult to explain through geology alone. He pointed to apparent terraces, aligned surfaces, possible road-like pathways, and features resembling carved steps. In some areas, he identified shapes that he interpreted as platforms, monuments, and symbolic carvings. According to this view, the monument represents the remains of a human-modified landscape that became submerged as sea levels rose following the end of the last ice age. If correct, the implications would be profound. Human activity at the site could date back thousands of years earlier than many known architectural traditions in the region. However, other researchers remain unconvinced. Geologists examining the same formations often reach very different conclusions. They note that the rocks comprising the monument belong to sandstone and mudstone formations prone to fracturing along straight plains. Earthquakes, tectonic uplift, and erosion can create surprisingly regular geometric shapes. Natural processes sometimes produce formations that appear artificial despite having no human involvement whatsoever. Around the world, cliffs, rock columns, basalt formations, and fractured stone landscapes frequently display patterns that seem engineered. The human brain is exceptionally skilled at recognizing order and structure. This ability serves us well in daily life, but can occasionally lead us to perceive intentional design where natural processes are sufficient explanations. The geological history of the region supports the possibility of natural formation. Yonaguni lies within a tectonically active area shaped by powerful forces over immense periods of time. Earthquakes regularly affect the region. Rock layers have been uplifted, fractured, and eroded repeatedly. Ocean currents continue shaping the underwater landscape. Given enough time, these processes can produce strikingly geometric forms. Supporters of the geological interpretation argue that the monument fits well within known patterns of regional geology. From this perspective, there is no need to invoke ancient civilizations to explain its existence. Nature itself possesses remarkable creative power, yet certain questions continue fueling debate. Some observers point to what appear to be symmetrical arrangements or unusually regular surfaces. Others note isolated features that seem difficult to attribute entirely to natural processes. The possibility of partial human modification remains particularly intriguing because it occupies middle ground between competing positions. Ancient communities may have encountered naturally occurring formations and altered them for ceremonial, navigational, or symbolic purposes. Such interactions between human activity and natural landscapes are common throughout history. Sacred mountains, caves, cliffs, and rock formations frequently become integrated into cultural traditions. If Yonaguni experienced similar modifications, distinguishing original geology from later human intervention becomes exceptionally challenging. Another reason the mystery persists involves the absence of definitive archaeological evidence. At many ancient sites, researchers uncover artifacts, tools, pottery, human remains, inscriptions, or other materials directly associated with human occupation. Such evidence provides strong support for archaeological interpretations. At Yonaguni, however, clear cultural materials remain scarce. While some objects have been reported from the surrounding area, none provide universally accepted proof that the monument itself was constructed by humans. This absence does not necessarily disprove human involvement, but it does make confirmation difficult. Archaeologists prefer conclusions supported by multiple independent lines of evidence. At present, the monument continues resisting such certainty. The broader context of rising sea levels after the last ice age adds another fascinating dimension. Across the world, coastlines changed dramatically as glaciers melted and oceans expanded. Lands once inhabited by humans disappeared beneath the sea. Archaeologists increasingly recognize that submerged landscapes may preserve important evidence of ancient activity. Underwater, archaeology has revealed shipwrecks, settlements, and artifacts in many regions. The possibility that undiscovered sites remain hidden beneath modern oceans is entirely plausible. This reality keeps interest in Yonaguni alive. Even if the monument itself proves natural, the search for submerged archaeological landscapes remains an important area of research. Technological advances continue improving our ability to study underwater environments. High-resolution sonar mapping, three-dimensional imaging, underwater drones, and advanced geological analysis provide researchers with increasingly detailed information. Future investigations may reveal evidence currently hidden beneath marine growth or sediments. New methods could help clarify whether certain features result from natural fracturing, human modification, or some combination of both. The mystery remains active precisely because science continues developing better tools for addressing difficult questions. As afternoon light dances across the ocean's surface above and shadows move across the stone terraces below, the Yonaguni Monument remains one of the world's most captivating enigmas. It reminds us that mysteries do not always persist because evidence is absent. Sometimes they persist because the evidence supports multiple interpretations simultaneously. Whether the monument represents a lost city beneath the sea, a remarkable geological formation, or a complex blend of natural and human influences, it continues inspiring curiosity and investigation. The structure challenges assumptions about what we know and how we know it. Most importantly, it reminds us that vast portions of our planet remain unexplored, especially beneath the oceans. Somewhere within those depths may lie answers not only to the mystery of Yonaguni, but to countless other forgotten chapters of human and natural history. Until then, the monument remains suspended between two possibilities, balanced delicately between archaeology and geology, a mystery hidden beneath the waves that continues to resist definitive explanation. Chapter 3, Segment 1, Antikythera Mechanism, the world's first ancient computer. As the sun begins to rise over the sparkling waters of the Mediterranean Sea and gentle waves move across ancient maritime routes once traveled by merchants, sailors, philosophers, and explorers, we arrive at one of the most astonishing discoveries in the history of archaeology. Unlike the monumental stone structures of Göbekli Tepe, the submerged mystery of Yonaguni, or the immense geoglyphs of Nazca, this mystery is small enough to fit inside a wooden box. Yet, despite its modest size, it has challenged historians, scientists, engineers, and archaeologists for more than a century. Hidden within a shipwreck for nearly 2,000 years, the Antikythera mechanism has been described as one of the most extraordinary technological artifacts ever discovered. Often called the world's first analog computer, it appears so advanced that when researchers first began studying it, many struggled to believe such a device could have been created in the ancient world. Its intricate gears, mathematical functions, and astronomical capabilities seemed centuries ahead of their time. The discovery forced scholars to reconsider long-standing assumptions about ancient technology and raised a profound question: how could a device of such sophistication exist in an era when most people imagine technology as relatively simple? The story begins in the year 1900 near the small Greek island of Antikythera, located between Crete and mainland Greece. A group of sponge divers seeking shelter from a storm made an unexpected discovery beneath the sea. Resting on the seafloor was an ancient shipwreck filled with remarkable treasures. Statues, pottery, jewelry, glassware, and luxury goods lay scattered across the wreck site. Archaeologists quickly recognized the importance of the find. The ship appeared to be a large Roman-era merchant vessel transporting valuable cargo across the Mediterranean sometime during the 1st century BCE. Over the following months, divers recovered numerous artifacts from the wreck. Among them was a corroded lump of bronze and wood that initially attracted little attention. Compared to the magnificent statues emerging from the sea, it seemed insignificant. Yet this humble object would eventually become one of the most important archaeological discoveries ever made. At first, researchers struggled to understand what they were seeing. The artifact consisted of fragmented bronze pieces heavily damaged by centuries underwater. Corrosion obscured details. The object appeared broken beyond recognition. Then, during closer examination, something remarkable became visible. Embedded within the corroded mass were gears. Not one or two gears, but dozens of precisely crafted bronze gear wheels interconnected in complex arrangements. Such mechanisms were virtually unknown from the ancient world. Historians understood that Greek engineers possessed impressive knowledge of mathematics, astronomy, and mechanics. Ancient inventors had created water clocks, automata, and various machines. Yet, nothing resembling the complexity of the Antikythera mechanism had ever been discovered. The gears immediately suggested that the object served a sophisticated purpose. The challenge was determining exactly what that purpose had been. Imagine the surprise of early researchers confronting the device. At a time when many people assumed technological progress followed a simple path from primitive beginnings toward modern sophistication, the Antikythera mechanism seemed out of place. Some scholars compared it to finding a modern clock within an ancient tomb. The analogy was not entirely accurate, but it captured the sense of astonishment surrounding the discovery. The mechanism contained more than 30 bronze gears arranged within a compact framework. Inscriptions covered portions of the device. Pointers and dials suggested measurement functions. Clearly, this was not an ordinary artifact. It represented a level of mechanical engineering few expected from antiquity. Decades of research gradually revealed the device's astonishing capabilities. The Antikythera mechanism was designed to model astronomical phenomena. By turning a crank, users could calculate the positions of the sun, moon, and possibly certain planets across the sky. The mechanism predicted eclipses. It tracked lunar cycles. It displayed calendars, complex gear ratios, translated rotational movement into accurate astronomical calculations. In essence, the device functioned as a mechanical representation of the cosmos as understood by ancient Greek science. The sophistication of this achievement is difficult to overstate. The mechanism embodies advanced knowledge of astronomy, mathematics, metallurgy, and precision engineering. Every gear had to be carefully designed and manufactured. Every ratio reflected underlying scientific understanding. One particularly fascinating feature involves the prediction of eclipses. Ancient societies regarded eclipses as significant events. Predicting them required identifying recurring astronomical cycles. The Antikythera mechanism incorporated these cycles into its gear system, allowing users to anticipate future eclipses with remarkable accuracy. Such functionality demonstrates not only technical skill but also deep scientific knowledge. The builders understood celestial patterns well, enough to encode them mechanically. This fusion of theory and engineering represents one of the most impressive achievements of ancient science. The inscriptions found on the mechanism provide additional insights. Advances in imaging technology allowed researchers to read text invisible to earlier generations. These inscriptions functioned partly as instructions, explaining aspects of the device's operation. They also reveal that the mechanism was intended for educational or practical use rather than existing merely as a technological curiosity. Someone built this machine because it served a purpose. It helped users understand and predict astronomical events. In doing so, it transformed abstract scientific concepts into tangible mechanical processes. Yet perhaps the greatest mystery concerns not what the mechanism did, but where it came from. No other device of comparable complexity has survived from the ancient world. Researchers know that Greek engineers possessed remarkable abilities, but the Antikythera mechanism appears so sophisticated that it suggests a broader technological tradition. Complex inventions rarely emerge in isolation. They typically develop through experimentation, refinement, and accumulated knowledge. If the mechanism existed, what preceded it? Were there earlier versions? Did similar devices once exist, but fail to survive? The absence of comparable artifacts remains one of the most intriguing aspects of the mystery. The Mediterranean world during the Hellenistic period provides important context. Following the conquests of Alexander the Great, scientific knowledge flourished across regions stretching from Greece to Egypt and beyond. Scholars studied astronomy, mathematics, engineering, and natural philosophy. Libraries collected vast amounts of information. Inventors developed machines and mechanical devices. Within this environment, the creation of the Antikythera mechanism becomes more understandable. It reflects the intellectual achievements of a civilization deeply interested in understanding the cosmos. Yet even within that context, the device remains exceptional. As the morning sunlight reflects across the Mediterranean waters above the shipwreck where the mechanism rested for nearly 2 millennia, the significance of the discovery becomes clear. The Antikythera mechanism is not merely an artifact. It is evidence of lost knowledge, forgotten expertise, and technological achievements that challenge assumptions about the ancient world. Its gears continue turning within the imagination of modern researchers, asking questions that remain only partially answered. Who designed it? How many similar devices once existed? What other technologies have been lost to history? The mechanism reminds us that the past often contains surprises capable of reshaping our understanding of human ingenuity. As the day unfolds across the Mediterranean and sunlight glitters upon the sea routes once traveled by ancient merchants and scholars, the mystery of the Antikythera mechanism grows even more fascinating. The discovery itself was extraordinary, but the deeper researchers investigated the artifact, the more remarkable it became. Every technological advance used to study the mechanism revealed additional layers of complexity hidden within the corroded fragments. What initially appeared to be a collection of bronze gears gradually emerged as one of the most sophisticated scientific instruments of the ancient world. More than a century after its recovery, researchers continue uncovering details that transform our understanding of ancient knowledge. The Antikythera mechanism does not merely demonstrate technical skill. It reveals an entire worldview shaped by observation, mathematics, and a desire to understand the cosmos. Imagine the workshop where the mechanism was created. Somewhere within the Hellenistic world, skilled artisans and scholars collaborate on an ambitious project. Bronze is carefully cast and shaped. Gear teeth are cut with extraordinary precision. Mathematical calculations determine gear ratios. Astronomical theories guide the design. Every component must function correctly, because even small errors could affect calculations. The finished device represents the convergence of multiple disciplines. Astronomy provides the underlying knowledge. Mathematics translates celestial cycles into numerical relationships. Engineering transforms those relationships into mechanical motion. Craftsmanship ensures physical reliability. The mechanism, therefore, stands as evidence not merely of individual genius, but of a broader intellectual tradition capable of integrating diverse forms of expertise. One of the most astonishing aspects of the device is its ability to model complex astronomical cycles through purely mechanical means. Modern people are accustomed to computers performing calculations instantly. The Antikythera mechanism achieved similar goals through gears, shafts, pointers, and rotating dials. When a user turned a crank, the internal gear train converted simple motion into a sophisticated simulation of celestial behavior. Lunar phases changed. Calendars advanced. Astronomical cycles progressed according to mathematically defined patterns. The mechanism effectively served as a portable universe, allowing its owner to visualize cosmic events and predict future occurrences. Such functionality reflects an impressive level of abstraction. The builders understood not only the movements of celestial bodies, but also how to represent those movements mechanically. The study of eclipses provides an excellent example of this sophistication. Eclipses do not occur randomly. They follow cycles determined by the relative positions of the Earth, Moon, and Sun. Ancient astronomers observed these patterns over generations, identifying recurring sequences. The Antikythera mechanism incorporated one of these sequences, known today as the Saros cycle. Through carefully chosen gear ratios, the device could indicate when eclipses were likely to occur. This achievement required both empirical observation and theoretical understanding. It demonstrates that ancient astronomers possessed knowledge often underestimated in popular accounts of history. The inscriptions preserved on the mechanism have proven equally important. Modern imaging techniques, including X-ray tomography and advanced scanning technologies, allowed researchers to examine hidden internal structures and recover text invisible to the naked eye. These investigations transformed understanding of the device. The inscriptions describe astronomical phenomena, explain functions, and provide operational guidance. They reveal that the mechanism was designed for users familiar with scientific concepts. In some ways, it resembles a sophisticated educational tool. Rather than merely presenting information, it allowed users to interact with astronomical knowledge directly, turning the crank transformed abstract calculations into visible mechanical processes. Yet the greatest mystery remains the technological gap surrounding the artifact. Historians have documented numerous achievements of ancient Greek science and engineering. Water clocks measured time. Automata performed mechanical actions. Engineers developed cranes, pumps, and military machines. Nevertheless, the Antikythera mechanism occupies a category almost entirely by itself. Comparable devices do not reappear in surviving historical records for many centuries. Medieval astronomical clocks eventually achieved similar levels of complexity, but they emerged more than 1,000 years later. This gap raises profound questions. Was the mechanism unique? Or does it represent the sole survivor of a broader tradition lost through time? The possibility of lost technological traditions fascinates historians because preservation is often uneven. Many ancient inventions disappeared due to war, economic decline, changing cultural priorities, or simple material decay. Bronze was frequently recycled. Wooden components deteriorated. Libraries burned. Knowledge sometimes vanished when institutions supporting it collapsed. The Antikythera mechanism survived only because a ship carrying it sank beneath the sea, creating unusual preservation conditions. If that ship had completed its journey successfully, the device might never have reached modern researchers. This realization encourages humility. Historical understanding depends heavily upon what survives. Entire chapters of technological history may remain unknown simply because evidence has been lost. The broader intellectual environment of the Hellenistic world helps explain how such a device became possible. Cities such as Alexandria served as centers of learning where scholars studied mathematics, astronomy, geography, medicine, and engineering. Ideas circulated across vast networks connecting different regions of the Mediterranean. Scientific inquiry flourished. Inventors experimented with mechanical systems. Philosophers sought rational explanations for natural phenomena. Within this context, the Antikythera mechanism appears less like an impossible anomaly and more like an extraordinary product of a vibrant intellectual culture. Even so, its sophistication continues to exceed expectations. Modern researchers increasingly view the mechanism as evidence that ancient science achieved levels of complexity often overlooked in traditional narratives. For many years, popular history emphasized monumental architecture, warfare, and political events while underestimating scientific accomplishments. The Antikythera mechanism challenges such assumptions directly. It demonstrates that ancient scholars pursued precise quantitative understanding of the natural world. More importantly, It shows that they could transform that understanding into working technology. The device embodies the relationship between theory and practice, a hallmark of advanced scientific thinking. As afternoon sunlight reflects across the Mediterranean and gentle waves pass above the ancient shipwreck where the mechanism rested unseen for centuries, the enduring significance of the artifact becomes apparent. The Antikythera mechanism is more than an ancient machine. It is a reminder that human curiosity has deep roots. Long before modern science, people sought to understand the universe, identify patterns, and predict celestial events. They developed tools capable of expressing those insights in tangible form. The mechanism stands as a testament to the creativity, intelligence, and ambition of its creators. Yet despite more than a century of study, important questions remain unanswered. Who exactly designed it? How widespread was the technology it represents? What other devices have disappeared from history? Could future discoveries reveal additional examples of comparable sophistication? The answers remain uncertain. For now, the Antikythera mechanism continues, occupying a unique place in the story of human innovation. Hidden within its gears is a mystery that stretches across 2,000 years, reminding us that the ancient world still holds secrets capable of surprising even the most knowledgeable experts. Chapter 3, Segment 2, Pyre Reis Map and Rohank Codex. Maps and manuscripts that refuse to reveal their secrets. As the afternoon sun shines across the waters of the Mediterranean and ancient sea routes come alive in our imagination, we turn from the gears of the Antikythera mechanism to another mystery hidden within human knowledge. Unlike monumental ruins carved from stone or lost cities submerged beneath the sea, this mystery exists on a sheet of parchment. At first glance, it appears to be a map, something familiar and practical. Yet for more than a century, the Pyre Reis map has inspired debate, fascination, speculation, and controversy. Discovered in 1929 within the archives of Topkapi Palace in Istanbul, the surviving fragment of the map was created in 1513 by the Ottoman admiral and cartographer Pyre Reis. The document immediately attracted attention because it appeared to contain geographical information that seemed unusually advanced for its time. Coastlines of Europe, Africa, and the Americas appeared in surprising detail. Notes written by Pyre Reis described multiple source materials used during its creation. Some interpretations suggested that the map preserved knowledge from much older sources now lost to history. Others claimed it showed lands supposedly unknown during the early 16th century. Over the decades, the map became one of the most famous cartographic mysteries in the world. Yet, separating fact from speculation remains one of the greatest challenges surrounding the document. To understand why the Pyre Reis map became so famous, imagine the world in the early 16th century. European exploration was transforming geographical knowledge at a rapid pace. Voyages across the Atlantic had revealed continents previously unknown to Europeans. Sailors gathered information from newly explored coastlines. Cartographers struggled to incorporate fresh discoveries into maps. Geography was evolving almost year by year. Within this dynamic environment, Pyre Reis compiled his map using a variety of sources. Fortunately, he left written notes explaining part of his process. According to his own annotations, he consulted numerous earlier maps, including Portuguese charts, Arabic geographical traditions, and information associated with the voyages of Christopher Columbus. These statements are crucial because they provide direct insight into the map's origins, rather than claiming personal discovery of every coastline depicted. Pyrie Reis openly acknowledged drawing upon earlier materials. This honesty makes the map even more intriguing because many of those source documents have not survived. The map therefore functions partly as a window into lost traditions of cartography. The surviving fragment covers portions of the Atlantic Ocean along with sections of Europe, Africa, and the Americas. Certain coastal outlines display impressive accuracy considering the period in which the map was created. The western coast of Africa appears recognizable. Parts of South America are rendered with considerable detail. Such accuracy reflects the remarkable achievements of navigators and cartographers working during an age of exploration. Yet it also raises questions regarding how information circulated across different cultures. The Ottoman Empire occupied a strategic position connecting Europe, Asia, Africa, and the Middle East. Knowledge traveled through trade routes, diplomatic contacts, and maritime networks. The Pyrie Reis map reflects this interconnected world. It embodies the exchange of geographical information across cultural boundaries. The mystery intensified during the 20th century when some writers proposed more extraordinary interpretations. Certain researchers argued that portions of the map depicted Antarctica centuries before its official discovery. Others suggested that hidden evidence pointed toward ancient advanced civilizations possessing geographical knowledge lost to history. These claims attracted widespread public attention because they transformed an already fascinating artifact into something seemingly impossible. Yet careful examination by historians and cartographers generally supports more conventional explanations. Features interpreted as Antarctica likely represent distortions of South American coastlines, a common issue in early cartography. Mapmakers often struggled with scale, orientation, and incomplete information. What appears mysterious today frequently reflects the practical challenges faced by 16th century cartographers. Nevertheless, the map remains remarkable even without extraordinary theories. Its true significance lies in what it reveals about knowledge transmission. Pyrie Reis compiled information from multiple traditions, combining them into a single document. In doing so, he preserved traces of maps that no longer exist. Some source materials may have originated with Portuguese explorers. Others may reflect older Mediterranean traditions. Still others could derive from now lost charts carried across oceans by sailors whose names are forgotten. The map, therefore, resembles an archaeological artifact constructed from fragments of vanished knowledge. Every coastline contains layers of historical information accumulated through generations of observation and exploration. One particularly fascinating aspect involves the annotations written directly on the map. These notes describe encounters with indigenous peoples, geographical features, and the origins of certain information. They transform the document from a simple navigational tool into a historical record. Through the annotations, we glimpse how 16th century scholars understood the rapidly expanding world around them. Curiosity, uncertainty, and discovery coexist within the text. The map reflects a moment when global geography was being rewritten. New lands challenged old assumptions. Cartographers struggled to integrate fresh information into existing frameworks. The Pyrie Reis map captures that intellectual transition with remarkable clarity. The survival of only a fragment adds another layer to the mystery. We do not possess the complete original map. Portions have been lost. As a result, modern researchers work with incomplete evidence. questions remain regarding what other regions may once have appeared on. The missing sections. Historical puzzles often emerge not because evidence is absent, but because it is incomplete. The surviving fragment invites speculation precisely because it hints at a larger whole no longer available for study. As afternoon light reflects across the seas once traveled by the sailors whose observations contributed to the map, the enduring fascination of the Pyre Reis document becomes understandable. It stands at the intersection of exploration, cartography, cultural exchange, and historical memory. Its mysteries are not necessarily supernatural or impossible. Rather, they remind us how knowledge moves through time, how information survives in unexpected forms, and how even a single piece of parchment can preserve traces of worlds long vanished. The map continues challenging researchers not because it defies explanation, but because it offers tantalizing glimpses into networks of knowledge that remain only partially understood. Part 2. The Voynich Codex, the book nobody can read. As evening begins to settle across Europe and shadows lengthen over libraries, archives, and collections where countless historical documents are preserved, we encounter a different kind of mystery. Unlike the Pyre Reis map, whose geographical content can be studied and interpreted, the Voynich Codex presents a more fundamental challenge. Before historians can understand what it means, they must first determine what it says. The problem is simple to describe and extraordinarily difficult to solve. The Voynich Codex is a manuscript filled with unknown symbols, written in a script that no one has successfully deciphered. For generations, linguists, cryptographers, historians, and amateur researchers have attempted to unlock its secrets. Yet, despite countless efforts, the text continues resisting explanation. It remains one of the world's most enigmatic manuscripts, a book whose language, origin, purpose, and meaning remain uncertain. The manuscript takes its name from the town of Voynich, now known as Rechnitz in Austria, where it was once kept. Today it resides in Hungary. The codex contains hundreds of pages, covered with mysterious symbols unlike any widely recognized writing system. Accompanying the text are illustrations depicting religious scenes, battles, landscapes, and figures engaged in various activities. At first glance, the manuscript appears genuine. The pages show signs of age. The illustrations suggest deliberate effort. Yet the meaning of the symbols remains elusive. Researchers cannot confidently identify the language, determine the direction of writing, or establish whether the script represents a true writing system at all. Imagine opening the manuscript for the first time. Page after page confronts you with unfamiliar characters. Some symbols repeat frequently. Others appear rarely. Patterns seem present, suggesting structure rather than randomness. The illustrations imply narrative content. Yet every attempt to interpret the text encounters obstacles. Linguists search for recognizable patterns corresponding to known languages. Cryptographers test hypotheses involving encoded messages. Historians examine artistic styles for clues regarding origin and date. Decades pass. New theories emerge. None achieve universal acceptance. The manuscript remains silent. One possibility is that the codex preserves a genuine but otherwise unknown language or script. History contains many examples of writing systems disappearing when the communities using them vanish. If the Voynich Codex originated within a small group whose records failed to survive elsewhere, decipherment becomes extraordinarily difficult. Successful decoding often depends upon comparison with known texts or bilingual inscriptions. The famous Rosetta Stone enabled scholars to decipher Egyptian hieroglyphs because it presented the same content in multiple scripts. No equivalent key exists for the Voynich Codex. Researchers face the challenge of interpreting a text without external reference points. Another possibility involves cryptography. The manuscript may encode information through a cipher designed to conceal meaning. If so, identifying the underlying system becomes essential. Throughout history, governments, religious groups, merchants, and scholars have used encryption for various purposes. Some ciphers are relatively simple. Others are astonishingly complex. The Voynich Codex could theoretically represent an encoded text whose meaning remains hidden behind layers of transformation. Yet despite extensive efforts by cryptographers, no proposed solution has achieved broad acceptance. The illustrations provide tantalizing clues. Certain images appear religious in nature, depicting crosses, churches, and ceremonial scenes. Others show military activities or social interactions. Some scholars have suggested connections to Christianity. Others identify influences from multiple cultural traditions. The diversity of imagery complicates interpretation because it does not point clearly toward a single geographical or cultural origin. Instead, the illustrations deepen the mystery by offering hints without definitive answers. The question of authenticity also plays an important role. Could the manuscript be a hoax? Some researchers have considered this possibility. History contains examples of forged documents, created for amusement, deception, or artistic experimentation. Yet producing a manuscript of this complexity would require considerable effort. Hundreds of pages filled with consistent symbols represent a significant undertaking. If it is a hoax, it is an extraordinarily elaborate one. If it is genuine, it preserves knowledge currently inaccessible to modern understanding. Neither possibility fully resolves the mystery. Modern technology has introduced new approaches. Statistical analysis examines symbol frequencies. Computer algorithms search for patterns. Digital imaging enhances faded sections. Researchers compare structural features against known languages and writing systems. These methods have produced valuable observations, but not definitive solutions. The manuscript continues resisting interpretation. Every apparent breakthrough eventually encounters problems. The text remains stubbornly unreadable. The Voynich Codex reminds us that written language can become as mysterious as any lost city or buried monument. We often think of writing as permanent and transparent. Once words are recorded, surely their meaning survives. Yet history demonstrates otherwise. Languages disappear. Scripts fall out of use. Context vanishes. A manuscript can survive physically while its message becomes inaccessible. The Voynich Codex embodies this paradox perfectly. The book exists. We can hold it, photograph it, analyze it, and study it. Yet its meaning remains beyond reach. As evening darkness settles and the manuscript rests quietly within archival collections, its symbols continue waiting patiently for someone to understand them. Perhaps future discoveries will provide new clues. A related document may emerge from an overlooked archive. Advances in artificial intelligence might identify patterns invisible to human observers. Or perhaps the mystery will endure for generations to come. For now, the Voynich Codex remains one of history's greatest unsolved puzzles, a book that seems determined to keep its secrets hidden, reminding us that not all knowledge lost to time can be easily recovered. Chapter 3. Segment 3. Voynich Manuscript, the ultimate unsolved manuscript. As night settles across Europe and the last traces of daylight fade beyond the horizon, we arrive at the final mystery of our journey. Throughout this exploration of unsolved ancient mysteries, we have stood among the towering pillars of Göbekli Tepe, wandered through the stone canals of Nan Madol, descended into the forgotten Lanyu caves, examined the remarkable engineering of Puma Punku, traced the giant geoglyphs of Nazca, explored the submerged formations of Yonaguni, turned the gears of the Antikythera mechanism, unfolded the enigmatic Pyre Reis map, and confronted the unreadable symbols of the Rohank Codex. Yet among all these mysteries, none has inspired quite the same combination of fascination, frustration, and obsession as the Voynich Manuscript. For more than a century, linguists, cryptographers, historians, mathematicians, intelligence agencies, computer scientists, and amateur researchers have attempted to understand its contents. Some have spent decades studying its pages. Others believe they had solved it, only for their conclusions to collapse under closer examination. Despite countless efforts, the manuscript continues to resist interpretation. It remains one of the most famous unsolved documents in human history, a book that seems to possess all the characteristics of meaningful writing while refusing to reveal what it actually says. Imagine opening a large medieval manuscript resting quietly on a wooden table. The pages are filled with elegant handwriting unlike any known language. Delicate illustrations accompany the text. Strange plants stretch across the pages, yet none correspond precisely to identifiable species. Diagrams resembling stars, constellations, and astronomical charts appear throughout the manuscript. Elsewhere, mysterious figures stand within elaborate pools connected by tubes and channels. Decorative symbols fill circular diagrams. Every page suggests purpose. Every section appears organized according to a coherent system. Yet when experts attempt to read the text, they encounter an extraordinary problem. The writing system does not match any known script. The language does not correspond clearly to any documented tongue. The manuscript appears meaningful, but its meaning remains inaccessible. This is the challenge presented by the Voynich Manuscript. The document takes its modern name from Wilfrid Voynich, the rare book dealer who acquired it in 1912. Since then, the manuscript has become the subject of intense study. Today it is housed within the Beinecke Rare Book and Manuscript Library at Yale University, where it remains one of the institution's most famous holdings. Radiocarbon dating indicates that the parchment used in its creation dates to the early 15th century, placing the manuscript firmly within the medieval period. This finding resolved certain debates regarding age, but deepened others. If the manuscript originated during the 15th century, why does its language remain unknown? Medieval Europe produced extensive written records. Languages, scripts, and literary traditions from the period are generally well documented. Yet the Voynich manuscript seems to stand apart from all of them. One reason the manuscript fascinates researchers is that the text displays characteristics associated with genuine language. The symbols occur in patterns rather than random sequences. Certain words appear frequently, others occur rarely. Statistical analyses reveal structures resembling natural linguistic behavior. Word lengths follow recognizable distributions. Repeated phrases appear in specific contexts. These observations suggest that the text is not merely meaningless scribbling. Instead, it appears governed by rules. The challenge lies in determining what those rules represent. Is the manuscript written in an unknown language? Does it employ an elaborate cipher? Could it encode information through a system not yet understood? Every possibility has been explored, yet none has produced universally accepted results. The illustrations provide another layer of mystery. Researchers often divide the manuscript into thematic sections based upon visual content. One section contains botanical illustrations, yet the plants depicted do not correspond neatly to known species. Some appear to combine features from multiple plants. Others seem entirely imaginary. Another section contains astronomical or astrological imagery featuring stars, suns, moons, and circular diagrams. Additional pages depict bathing figures within interconnected pools, creating scenes unlike those found in typical medieval manuscripts. Still other sections contain dense blocks of text accompanied by small illustrations. The organization suggests a structured work rather than a random collection of images and symbols. Yet without understanding the language, interpreting the illustrations becomes extremely difficult. Imagine being a scholar encountering the manuscript for the first time. Every page invites analysis. The plants imply medicinal knowledge. The astronomical diagrams suggest scientific interests. The bathing figures hint at themes involving health, nature, or philosophy. Yet every interpretation remains speculative because the text refuses to cooperate. Researchers often compare the experience to attempting to solve a puzzle while missing crucial pieces. Clues exist everywhere, but the key needed to connect them remains absent. The possibility of cryptography has attracted particular attention. Throughout history, secret writing systems have been used for diplomacy, espionage, religious communication, and intellectual protection. Could the Voynich Manuscript conceal an ordinary language beneath layers of encryption? Many cryptographers have believed so. During the 20th century, experts who successfully decoded military ciphers examined the manuscript. Some approached the challenge with confidence, expecting eventual success. Yet the manuscript consistently defeated their efforts. Patterns that initially appeared promising failed under closer scrutiny. Proposed solutions generated translations that lacked consistency or explanatory power. The text seemed to possess qualities unlike conventional encrypted documents. The manuscript's reputation grew dramatically during the 20th century because every failed attempt added to its mystique. If ordinary scholars could not read it, perhaps extraordinary explanations were required. Speculations multiplied. Some proposed lost languages. Others suggested encoded scientific knowledge. More imaginative theories invoked secret societies, alchemy, forgotten civilizations, or even messages from non-human sources. While such ideas captured public imagination, historians generally favored more cautious approaches grounded in available evidence. Yet even the most conservative explanations faced significant challenges. The manuscript simply refused to yield definitive answers. Modern technology has transformed the investigation. High-resolution imaging reveals details invisible to earlier generations. Statistical software analyzes patterns across thousands of words. Artificial intelligence examines structural relationships within the text. Researchers compare symbol frequencies against hundreds of languages. Despite these advances, the central mystery remains. The manuscript continues resisting interpretation in ways that few other historical documents have managed. As midnight approaches and the pages of the Voynich Manuscript rest silently within their protective archive, they continue posing the same question asked for more than a century. What do these words mean? The answer remains hidden somewhere within the elegant symbols, waiting for a breakthrough that has yet to arrive. As the night deepens and silence settles around libraries, archives, and research institutions across the world, the Voynich Manuscript remains exactly where it has been for centuries, present, visible, and profoundly mysterious. Few historical artifacts illustrate the limits of human knowledge quite so clearly. Archaeologists uncover buried cities. Historians decipher forgotten inscriptions. Linguists reconstruct ancient languages. Yet the Voynich Manuscript continues, resisting all such efforts. It exists in a strange space between understanding and ignorance. We know when its parchment was made. We know roughly where it circulated. We know that generations of people considered it valuable enough to preserve. Yet we still do not know what it says. This combination of knowledge and uncertainty has transformed the manuscript into one of the world's most enduring intellectual puzzles. Imagine the person who created the manuscript. Somewhere in 15th century Europe, an individual or group of individuals carefully prepared parchment pages. Ink was mixed. Quills were sharpened. Illustrations were planned. Text was written line by line with remarkable consistency. The process required time, resources, and dedication. Creating a manuscript of this size was not a casual undertaking. Every page represents deliberate effort. This alone suggests that the document mattered to its creators. People rarely invest such labor into meaningless work. The challenge lies in determining what purpose motivated them. Was the manuscript intended as a scientific treatise, a medical handbook, a philosophical text, a coded message, a work of art? The possibilities remain open because the text itself refuses to clarify its intentions. One of the strongest arguments against the idea that the manuscript is a simple hoax involves its internal structure. Statistical analyses reveal patterns remarkably similar to those found in genuine languages. Certain symbols appear more frequently at the beginnings or ends of words. Repetition follows identifiable rules. Word distributions resemble linguistic systems rather than random sequences. If the manuscript were meaningless nonsense, its creator would have needed to reproduce these patterns with extraordinary consistency long before modern linguistics identified them. Such an achievement would itself be remarkable. Consequently, many researchers believe the manuscript contains genuine information, even if that information remains inaccessible. The botanical section continues attracting particular interest. Medieval manuscripts often included illustrations of plants used in medicine. Scholars hoped that identifying species depicted within the Voynich manuscript might provide clues regarding language and origin. Yet the plants remain frustratingly ambiguous. Some resemble real species partially. Others appear to combine characteristics from multiple plants. A leaf from one species may appear attached to the flower of another. Roots display unusual forms. The result is a collection of illustrations that feels familiar, yet strangely elusive. Researchers debate whether these images represent stylized depictions of real plants, symbolic constructions, or entirely invented forms. Without understanding accompanying text, certainty remains impossible. The astronomical and astrological sections pose similar challenges. Circular diagrams filled with stars, zodiac-like symbols, and geometric arrangements suggest engagement with medieval cosmology. Certain pages resemble known astrological traditions. Others appear unique. Some scholars believe these sections may hold clues regarding cultural context because astronomical knowledge often varies between regions and historical periods. Yet once again, the manuscript provides hints without definitive answers. Every apparent breakthrough encounters complications. Patterns emerge only to dissolve under closer examination. Perhaps the most fascinating aspect of the Voynich manuscript is the history of attempts to solve it. Over the decades, researchers from diverse backgrounds have approached the document with optimism. Linguists proposed connections to various languages. Cryptographers developed decoding systems. Historians searched for contextual evidence. Computer scientists applied algorithms. Intelligence experts accustomed to breaking complex codes joined the effort. Each generation brought new tools and perspectives. Each believed success might finally be within reach. Yet the manuscript remained stubbornly resistant. The growing list of failed solutions became part of the mystery itself. Every unsuccessful attempt demonstrated that the problem was more difficult than previously imagined. The involvement of professional cryptographers during the 20th century added significant intrigue. During periods of global conflict, code breaking became a critical scientific discipline. Experts who successfully deciphered military communications turned their attention to the Voynich Manuscript. Some expected that modern cryptographic methods would reveal hidden structures within the text. Instead, they encountered something unusual. The manuscript did not behave like typical encrypted documents. Known decoding techniques produced inconsistent results. If a cipher existed, it appeared unlike those commonly used in historical contexts. This realization deepened the mystery considerably. Artificial intelligence and machine learning have introduced new possibilities in recent years. Computers can analyze patterns across vast quantities of text far more quickly than human researchers. Algorithms compare Voynich words against linguistic databases containing hundreds of languages. Statistical models identify structural regularities. Researchers hope that these tools may eventually reveal patterns overlooked by previous generations. Yet even advanced computational methods have not produced definitive solutions. The manuscript remains enigmatic. Despite access to technologies its creators could never have imagined. Some historians propose that the manuscript's ultimate significance may not depend entirely upon decipherment. Even without understanding the text, the document provides valuable insights into medieval intellectual culture. It demonstrates artistic skill, organizational structure, and engagement with themes involving nature, astronomy, and human experience. The manuscript reveals that its creators inhabited a world rich with curiosity and knowledge. Its very existence contributes to historical understanding, even if its specific content remains unknown. Yet the desire to solve the mystery persists because humans are naturally drawn toward unanswered questions. The Voynich manuscript represents a challenge unlike most historical problems. The evidence exists. The text survives. The pages can be studied directly. Nothing is physically hidden, and yet meaning remains inaccessible. The barrier separating modern researchers from understanding is not distance or destruction, but interpretation. Somewhere within the symbols lies a message that once made perfect sense to someone. That realization continues inspiring investigation. As the final hours of the night pass, and our journey through history's greatest unsolved mysteries approaches its conclusion, the Voynich manuscript stands as a fitting final destination. It embodies the central theme connecting all the mysteries we have explored. Human beings create extraordinary things. Civilizations rise, build, discover, and record knowledge. Yet time introduces uncertainty. Meanings fade. Context disappears. Questions remain. The manuscript reminds us that not every mystery has been solved and that some may continue challenging future generations. Perhaps one day a forgotten document will emerge from an archive and provide the missing key. Perhaps advances in technology will reveal patterns currently invisible. Or perhaps the Voynich Manuscript will remain unreadable, preserving its secrets indefinitely. For now, it remains the ultimate unsolved manuscript, a silent book filled with unknown words, waiting patiently through the centuries for someone, somewhere, to finally understand its story. And so, our journey through 10 of history's greatest unsolved ancient mysteries comes to an end. Tonight, we've stood among the towering pillars of Göbekli Tepe, a monument older than many civilizations themselves. We've explored the stone city of Nan Madol rising from the Pacific Ocean, descended into the forgotten depths of the Lanyu caves, and examined the astonishing stonework of Puma Punku. We've traced the enormous Nazca lines across the Peruvian desert, ventured beneath the sea to investigate the mystery of the Yonaguni Monument, and uncovered the remarkable Antikythera mechanism, a machine so advanced that it continues to amaze researchers more than 2,000 years after it was created. Along the way, we've unfolded the enigmatic Piri Reis map, confronted the unreadable symbols of the Rohank Codex, and finished our journey with the legendary Voynich Manuscript, a book that still refuses to reveal its secrets despite more than a century of investigation. Perhaps one day, some of these mysteries will finally be solved. New discoveries may emerge from forgotten archives, hidden archaeological sites, or advances in scientific technology. Yet, others may remain unanswered forever, preserving a sense of wonder that continues to inspire curiosity across generations. What these mysteries remind us is that the ancient world was far more complex, creative, and remarkable than we often imagine. Beneath deserts, beneath oceans, within ruined temples, and inside forgotten manuscripts, traces of the past continue waiting to be understood. If you enjoyed this relaxing journey through history's greatest unsolved mysteries, please consider subscribing to the channel. Your support helps us continue creating long-form history documentaries exploring lost civilizations, ancient discoveries, forgotten worlds, archaeological mysteries, and the hidden stories of our past. Thank you for spending part of your evening with me. Until our next journey through history, rest well, sleep peacefully, and let the mysteries of the ancient world drift gently into your dreams. Good night.